Head into the unknown, down the rabbit hole, where it stops no one knows. We're going
Hello, and happy Thursday afternoon / evening. Fancy meeting you all here again today. I think today we're actually going to be able to make it through at least part of, or I'm hoping maybe the rest of the Delphi document. I know. We thought this day might never come, and I'm not even going to promise that it's going to be today, because we're on page 102 of 136. But hello, everybody, and welcome back if you were here this morning. And if you weren't, welcome. Hi, Sexy Wild Thing, Cow Freaking Claus. Hey, K-Braze. Hi, Soul Sister Nadie. Hi, Pamela. Hi, MK. Any luck, MK? I didn't have any luck yet. Hi, Malicious Intent, listening while driving. Hi, Dina. Hi, Anna. Hi, Wheel B. Hi, Hippie Chick. Hi, ATS. Hi, BR the Star. BR the Star. It's been a busy couple of true crime days. Hey, Corey. So, are you guys ready to go back to Delphi after we leave? We just left Colorado. Well, actually, we just left California. Yesterday, we were in Colorado. Now we're going to go back to Indiana. Hi, Monica. Okay, let me pull it up. Let's get it ready. Does anybody need a recap? Are we good? Are you guys caught up on parts 1 through 5? And we're starting part 6 today. Part 6 was supposed to be yesterday, but as soon as I went to go live, that's when everything happened with Suzanne Morphew. So let me see. Why doesn't it want to just change for me? Okay, I guess I won't do it that way. I'll do it the long way. Hey, Cool Gamer. Hey, True Crime Crazy. Music City Mom. The Music City Mom. Hey, Lynn. Hi, Tony. Yes, part 6, Corey. I know. Hi, Tia. Off 17, slightly south of Moffett, looking due east. Ooh. Okay. Hold. Let me just pull that up. I'm not going to pull that up on screen real quick, but I'm just going to pull it up on my computer so I can mark what MK said for when we go back to that. Off 17, slightly south of Moffett, looking due east. I'm here. I know I'm quiet. I'm just looking for something. All right, I'll look into that spot. Thank you, MK. I compared the view of the mountains off that video you sent me. Okay. All right, we can look in. I'll look into that too. I'll look down there. Thank you. See, I was telling you guys earlier, like it was weird because they were changing the story on whether it was north of Moffat, south of Moffat, all that stuff. Yeah, we live here now. This is what we do. We just live on YouTube criminality, just going through everything that there is to go through. Okay, now I'm going to pull the document up. I told you guys earlier, though, I did take some time to organize my screens, so at least I have one case on each screen and not just all over the place. Let's turn that off. Okay. Aw, K-Braze. Hi, Foxfire. Hi, Mrs. M. YouTube is my classroom. All right. Okay, so I know a lot of people showed up yesterday for the Delphi live, and then I switched it up on everybody. So I apologize for that, but that was huge breaking news happening out of Colorado. So we're going back to Delphi now. So we're gonna go back in, try to finish up. We're gonna do our best to make it through the rest of this document. Do we think we'll finish it with part 6? I am not making any promises, BR. I'm not making any promises because I get so deep into this damn document, and then I got to start finding stuff and seeing things, and I need the visuals that go with it all. But we are currently going through how all of these different people are connected to, one, each other, and then 2, to Delphi, and then 3, how they're all connected to each other, into Delphi, to the girls, and why the defense believes that these are potential suspects and that law enforcement did not do their due diligence in ruling these people out based on the research that they have done. Even still, on going into part 6, I'm still up in the air on some certain parts of it that I just think should be easily ruled in or ruled out. The state responded, which we read, I think was that, when did we read the response? Part 4, part 5. And I did not like their response whatsoever. I thought the response was just, it did not address anything that was really what was in this document, besides just that this is just mumbo jumbo and them trying to grandstand and make something out of nothing. But I don't necessarily agree with that. There is a lot in here that I think, with the supporting documents, it has legs to stand on, you guys. I don't know how much of it does, but it's definitely not a joke. It's definitely not mumbo jumbo, just grandstanding. I do not believe that. I'm like caught somewhere in the middle, and I kind of keep going back and forth on where I'm at. Hi, Melmac. Yeah, double dose of tea today. I know. I'm like, I'm tired. I need a nap. So much true crime. We finished off with, I think this one was Patrick Westfall's connections, is where we ended, and now we're starting to go into Johnny Messer's connections. So a little refreshers. Johnny Messer is the one that everybody believes is the kind of the connector between the Rushville crew and the Delphi Logansport crew. So Johnny Messer is the one that they think is the like the recruiter for new peeps to come and join their Odinist cult, their extreme Odinism. Hey, Stephanie. Adina has said, C-Dub. Okay, so we're just gonna, hi Salty C. We're just gonna start this one off. We're just gonna get right into it. We're gonna see if we can make it through the rest of this document. I do have some other things to show you guys as we go through, and I can guarantee that you guys will probably send me some stuff that you guys have found too. So I'm gonna take a drink, wet my whistle, as they say. I spread love, not hate. BR this. I might mention Steve Rogers, Smarty Pants. So BR. She's so funny. She's so silly. So Brad Holder, which is like a main character in this whole thing, this whole screenplay or whatever you want to call this whole memorandum. Brad Holder has a fake account named Steve Rogers. He thinks he's Captain America. And that's his like alt account on YouTube or on Facebook, not YouTube. I told you guys I'm tired, so this should be fun. You guys are gonna be like, no, Teresa, that's not right. And so I put the link to it in a chat with BR, and she's like, hello, I sent you this on Monday. Don't you even look at what I sent you? Yeah, he's Captain America. Team America. So anyway, so she had already seen it. I just saw it, but I recognized the pictures. I just thought she was showing me pictures from his regular old Facebook. I just didn't realize that he thought he was Captain America. Yeah, Commander Alpha Turkey, Captain America. I see the depth and the validity, but I know it's not mumbo jumbo, and you do too. Don't doubt yourself, Mrs. Marple. You're right. I know. That's why I'm like, I go back and forth because it's like it's so extreme that you're like, what the heck are we even talking about? And then you go, well, oh, shit, I don't know. This could be real legit. But I do think there are a lot of things in here that are easily debunked by the prosecution if they choose to. It's if they don't choose to, is the bigger issue. There are things they could absolutely correct and fix and say, nope, this is wrong. And they are making stuff up because this is what really happened. But yeah, it's the mambo jumbo, the mambo jumbo. Jeannie Smith. I find it odd that the crew named in the defense documents are the Vinlanders. Vinlanders are known in drug trafficking. Rumor has it Libby's dad is the town snitch. It used to be a big rumor. I remember back then, and he doesn't ever do like interviews or anything. And they did talk about that he had potentially snitched on some people. So I actually, ironically, found one on here that I was reading through. It's a PDF, but I was trying to learn some stuff and some things. Hi, Julio Suave. Hi, Foxfire. Hi, RJ. Merp. So you're not really that late, RJ. We like literally are just kind of getting started. So I have been kind of reading through this to just, once again, like I said, this is not something I knew anything about. And so it's very hard for me, my personality, to like talk about things that I don't know or understand. So I have been trying to understand it a little bit more, so that I don't just, speak out of, not having a flippin' clue. But and then there's also like different versions, because there's like this old version and this new version, and you got to kind of weed through it. Yeah, and so that's why I'm like, you got to weed through all these different little avenues of it. So it's complicated. I mean, we talked about this before, and it's like people actually go to college to study this, and I'm trying to learn it like in a week, like that. It's just no wonder my freaking brain hurts. I gotta stop doing that. Okay, so we're gonna get into the Johnny Messer connection. So we are on page 102. If anybody is looking to follow along while we read and we go through it. Otherwise, we're just gonna start unless you guys have any questions beforehand. Speak now or speak later, whenever. All right, Johnny Messer's connection to the crime and the crime scene. As has previously been discussed, Johnny Messer was close with Brad Holder and Patrick Westville, and also knew Elvis Fields, Ned Smith, and Rod Abrams. Furthermore, as previously discussed, Johnny Messer was a recruiter for Vinlander. Also, as previously stated, Ned Smith, Rod Abrams, and Elvis Fields all hoped to join the Vinlander Club, according to Johnny Messer. Now my mouse doesn't want to work again. There we go. Around Valentine's of 2017, Johnny Messer went up there to Delphi to hang out with his Vinlander buddies. See the Odin report. As stated earlier, Patrick Westville claimed to be at home in Delphi on February 13th, 2017, and Brad Holder claimed to be in Logansport on February 13th, 2017. Therefore, if Johnny Messer was going up there to visit his Vinlander buddies, Johnny Messer, was going to Delphi to spend time with Westville, who was like Messer's brother, or possibly to Logansport to visit Holder. When Messer came back from being in Delphi around Valentine's Day, the vehicle he drove to Delphi had blood along the side of the vehicle, and Messer, had no explanation for the blood's existence. Taylor Hornaday had to go to the car wash multiple times to clean off the vehicle, according to the Odin report. Hi, everybody popping in. Hi, Crime Curious. Hi, Marshall. This'll come in. Where's Thistle? Oh, there's Thistle. Hey, Thistle. Hi, BG. Evidence shows that the recruiter, Johnny Messer, was the connective tissue between the Delphi crew and the Rushville crew. Unified Command overlooked these connections, and furthermore, Liggett failed to inform Judge Diener of these connections to the murder scene. And Johnny Messer had a videotaped interview on October 23rd, 2018. Okay, so that was a pretty quick one. He basically is just the he's just the connector. He's the connective tissue, as the defense referred to him. So now Rod Abrams and his connection to the crime scene. Rod Abrams told police a lie about his whereabouts on February 13, 2017. This was discussed and referenced in Elvis's section, as was the fact that Elvis's alibi conflicted with Rod Abrams' alibi. Here are a few other evidentiary nuggets picked up from the defense's review of Rod Abrams' February 27, 2018 interview that the prosecution just provided to the defense on September 8, 2023. Some of these evidentiary nuggets from Rod Abrams' videotaped interview incriminate Elvis Fields. Elvis had been working for Ned Smith since 2005, but then stopped working for Ned in 2017, same year of the murders. According to Rod, Elvis was communicating with a 12-year-old girl on the internet and discussing inappropriate things. Elvis used Facebook to communicate to young girls aged 13, 14, and 15, according to Rod Abrams. When law enforcement asked Rod, has he, Elvis, ever talked about doing anything to a couple of girls, there's a long pause. Then Rod Abrams finally said no. The law enforcement officer then said, "Are you sure?" Rod responded, "He's never, he has, The law enforcement officer then says, "You kind of hesitated when I asked you that." Hi, Queen Baby, you. Yeah, it is a bunch of freaking lies. Like, that's pretty much where we're at. Like, nobody here is telling the truth. And also, it makes it a little bit, it's hard to go one way or the other when you have zero trustworthy people in these documents that they've just, I don't know if I believe anybody. Okay, when Rod Abrams is asked if Ned Smith and Elvis will also say that they all were in Muncie, because remember, they went to Muncie to visit the friend in the hospital, and they didn't have cell phone service. And then somebody actually commented on, I think it was part 4 or 5, whatever one it was, that they work in the hospital, and they have no problem with cell service. I thought that was funny. So when asked if Ned would be in Muncie on February 13th, Rod Abrams doesn't answer the question, but after another long pause, tells a long rambling story about how Ned doesn't always remember things. Finally, law enforcement asks Rod if they can look at Rod's phone to see any text between Rod and Elvis, and he refused, claiming that Elvis no longer has his phone number after Rod changed phones. Refused, claiming that Elvis no longer has his phone number after Rod changed phones. What does that have anything to do with? Okay, that's weird. Okay, according to Johnny Messer, Rod Abrams, along with Elvis and Ned Smith, were all interested in joining Messer's and Holder's Vinlander Club. Yeah, I don't know why you refused that Elvis no longer has his phone number. What would that have anything to do with? It would just be a Rod changed phones. That's a weird answer, a very long answer to a very simple, hey, I changed phones. I don't have those messages in here anymore. You know what I mean? The defense has very little time to review the voluminous amount of discovery dumped on the defense September 8th, including hours upon hours of never been seen before videos. Therefore, the defense will do its best to detail the important aspects of the Rod Abrams video with reference to the mark in the video where the words are spoken. Okay, the lies about Elvis's alibi should have been especially alarming to Unified Command. However, the items enumerated above are all should cause Unified Command to pause about Rod Abrams and Elvis Field's involvement in the murders. Lynn, that they didn't do geofencing here, I bet. That's part of my issue. I don't think that they even used it. All right, so here's the conclusion of part 2. Part 2 was dense with information. However, the court should be able to see that Tony Liot knew about the obvious connection between Odinism and the murders, and specifically the connection to Brad Holder, Patrick Westville, Johnny Messer, Elvis Fields, and Rod Abrams. Based upon the evidence provided to the court, the fact that a mystery Purdue professor I never can say this word, it's allegedly is what it is, led the Unified Command off the scent of Odinites is preposterous. Additionally, according to Todd Click's affidavit, the FBI cold case unit determined that the Odinites were involved in the murders, but Unified Command did nothing to investigate the Odinites. Unified Command seemingly rebuffed the Rushville investigators, Ferenczi, Murphy, and Click, who believed, based upon a large collection of evidence, that Holder, Westfall, Fields, Messer, and Abrams were all involved. Liget's concealment of this Odinite information from Judge Diener was intentional or reckless or both. Foxfire, don't feel silly. So basically the FBI has what they call a CAST team now. So it's a cellular analysis unit, basically. And what they're doing is instead of like old school, I take a phone and I find out where it pings and I kind of follow the phone around. What they're doing is they're actually trapping like an entire area, and they're saying, tell me all the phone activity. And this is obviously way more complicated than I'm saying, but this is the gist of it. They take like an area of a map and they say, okay, give me, all the phones that were active in this area. And then they have to like narrow it down. So say they have like a 3-mile radius, right? And they have 100 phones. So I'm just totally making up numbers. So they have to go, okay, now we obviously can't run 100 numbers because that would just be not using time management and wasting resources. So what they do is they go, okay, now find phones that are typically not in this area, or I can't do it, sniper. I know how to say it. It never comes out right. So they go, okay, like, let me say, give me the top 10 that are only in this area once ever, something along those lines. They pick out what they want, and that's how they do it. Purportedly. I know. I have to do it real super slow in my head. It's just one of those words. You guys know me, how I go. I think the situation is rife with corruption, but your hesitancy to talk about what you are unsure of is humility. Keep going. You're not an expert. You're guiding us down a path where we all learn. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so that's essentially, if you look at cases like Lori Vallow, they do a little bit of both. So they find Alex, like her brother's cell phone, and they're able to kind of track it. But what they actually do is they take all the information from Chad Daybell's property and put like a geofence around it, is kind of what you can think. Ask her about, I'm getting really good at that word, specificity. There's just, they stick on my tongue for whatever reason, and I can't do it. I don't know what it is. My brain's just like, no, throw it away. All right, so part 3, Liget concealed and falsified evidence in his affidavit for search warrant. Oh yeah, they did just a YouTuber. Yep, they did it with Murdaugh too. Will they be able to do that with Idaho? That is one of the things they were doing with Idaho, because that's the other thing is like these people, these perpetrators are throwing like their phone into airplane mode, thinking that, well, now you can't track what I was doing. But that's right. It's a much more complex way of doing it, but you can't say literally. I don't think the cult angle is what's important here. I think the group of people who allege to be interested in this thing is what's at play. Purport. Specificity. And yeah, so watch. I got that one now too, C-Dub. I don't, it's just how it goes. My brain says yes or no. And those words they say no to. So anyway, so that's kind of the difference. So like this new higher tech way of looking at cell phone data or cell phone usage in these crime scene areas is called geofencing, and it's what the CAST team for the FBI does. It used to be like just a few like FBI agents who kind of did it on the side, like they did their job and this, and now they're actually there's like an entire team of them that are like full time. This is what they do, and then there's other ones who kind of help out. Ironically, since we were talking about Morphew, the CAST agent who was supposed to testify for Morphew as an expert, that is one of the experts that the judge said, no, you can't. You can testify, but you can't be an expert. You won't be considered an expert. So, hi, Quinny. Oh, that's so cool, Music City Mom. Good for her. How old is Elvis? He was like 50. I don't even know if I want to say because I probably will be wrong. I think he was around 50. Somebody in chat tell me if I'm right or wrong. I don't know if I should say, because I honestly I don't really remember, and I've got a lot of numbers in my head at the moment, and that'll just take me down a path that I probably shouldn't go. Okay, so Liggett concealed and falsified evidence in his affidavit for the search warrant. This is the bigger deal. So I do not see, and I think I've said this on every part that we've done, I do not see the stuff with the cult, the stuff with the crime scene necessarily stopping a search warrant for Richard Allen's house. So even if he had put that information in there, I don't think the judge is going to go, okay, well, we're not giving you a search warrant for the house. Like I don't feel that that's the thing. The big things are going to be if he actually lied or omitted information. And I go back to the testimony of the woman who supposedly saw him on 300 North, saying that he was muddy and bloody, because we don't have that statement. If her statement only says muddy, then he falsified information in his request for the search warrant. But without looking at it, we don't know. We have to believe one or the other, and it's really kind of up to whoever you believe at this point. So the concealed and falsified evidence blows Liggett's timeline apart, which explains why he concealed and falsified the information. For Liggett's timeline to work and to place Richard Allen on the Monon High Bridge at 2:13, the time of the famous Down the Hill video, Liggett desperately needed Betsy Blair to describe a man on the Monon High Bridge that looked like Richard Allen, and perhaps more importantly, needed Betsy Blair to describe a car that she observed parked at the CPS parking lot at approximately 2:15. As looking like Richard Allen's black Ford Focus. Betsy Blair's description of the man she observed on the Monon High Bridge around 2 p.m. looked nothing like Richard Allen. Liggett concealed this information from Judge Diener. Betsy Blair's description of the vehicle she observed at the CPS parking lot looked nothing like a black Ford Focus. Liggett also concealed the information from this information from Judge Diener. For good measure, Liggett also lied about what Sarah Carbaugh observed at 3:57. That also blew up his timeline, which is the one who saw him on the 300 North. So let's go through. Betsy Blair's first description of the man she saw on the bridge was memorialized in sketch number 2, illustrated on February 17th, 2017, 3 days after the girls were found. Remember, so this is first sketch done, second sketch released. So this is younger bridge guy. 3 days after the girls were found, but not released to the public until April 22nd of 2019, following Superintendent Doug Carter's press conference. On February 17th of 2017, Betsy Blair met with state police sketch artist Taylor Bryant and provided a description of the man she observed from about 50 feet away on Monon High Bridge, the same man that Liot claimed in his affidavit was the killer. Betsy Blair told the sketch artist that the man she observed was a white male around the age of 20, had brown curly hair, and a medium build. Find attached and marked as Exhibit 103 the unredacted facial identification reference sheet filed as confidential that contains the description that Betsy Blair provided to the sketch artist. Also find attached a copy of the sketch that Taylor D. Bryant produced from Betsy Blair's description of the man she observed on the bridge, marked as Exhibit 104. This illustration is also called Sketch Number 2 because it was released to the public second. Upon looking at the sketch, Betsy Blair told the sketch artist that the illustration was a 10 out of 10 for accuracy. And that's in quotes, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. For the second sketch released, first one done. Marshall Dove. The Southeast Expressway is the bane of my existence. Liot would not ruin his career over a search warrant. Yeah, I don't know if it would necessarily be over a search warrant, though, but I think that, I mean, it's going to be pretty easy to prove. Once again, they're going to have her statements. They're going to have her statements. They're going to see whether she actually said that or not. David Gray, you know, a lot of people are asking that. A lot of people are asking that. But the alibi for Brad Holder could have really easily been proven or debunked by law enforcement. I think that the issue that we're looking at is that they didn't do it. They didn't do it either way. They just kind of were like, okay, sounds good. We'll just move on. That's where we're at right now with this document. Hi, Punksy. Okay, Brace. So what's going on? Exactly. Give me 1 second. I'm going to move my fan. Did he reach out and tell someone the same day or the day after is what I heard? If so, it's not like he was hiding. Are you talking about Richard Allen? Yeah, he reached out and talked to the conservation officer. And they supposedly lost this tip was lost in the mix until 2022. If you're talking about Richard Allen. 10 out of 10 for accuracy. The Unified Command did not release the Betsy Blair sketch to the public for over 2 years. Instead, they first released the Sarah Carbaugh sketch, also called Sketch 1, because it was released to the public first. The Sarah Carbaugh sketch was illustrated by FBI sketch artist Plants, okay, from Detroit on June 19th of 2017 and released to the public on July 17th of 2017. Okay, so let's think about this for a minute. The first sketch was given on February 17th. She sits down 3 days after. So they have a sketch 3 days after the girls are found of somebody that they think is the bridge guy. Okay? They don't release that sketch. Why is this? Why did they not release that? Marshall, this is the 136 pager. We're on part 6 of it. So we're at page like 106 finally. Thank you for final confirmation that FBI had already determined Odinite involvement. Hooray, many think the defense was the first to come up with this. No, they're actually putting this together based on little pieces of information that they have either learned about through the discovery, or that they're actually going out and following up on themselves. Yep, I never heard they said it was lost. How is something literally at the beginning of an active investigation lost? Yeah, it was just, kind of just put to the side and nobody really thought about it. Hey, Voices. I think it's interesting the state doesn't want camera. If the dude is so nuts, why not let them in? Yeah, it is. That is a very interesting. Why is the defense is like, no, let everybody in here, let them see what's happening, and the state's like, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. Indiana isn't known for having cameras, so it'll be muddy, bloody witness does exist, and we should assume anything in a probable cause affidavit for a search or arrest is 100% fact-based to the best of the author's knowledge. We should believe. I think there's going to be another comment coming up soon. It was misfiled, Midwest Mima. Oh, thank you, Kindness Cake. Lynn, I'm waiting for the other part of your comment because it was probably over 200 characters, and then it's like, no. Okay, so we should believe she was traveling on 300 North at 3:57, confirmed by CCTV, and that she claimed she saw a man muddy and bloody, appeared to have been in a fight, and was dressed in a blue jacket and blue jeans. Problem with that is they're attaching her interview and saying, hey, here's her interview, and it doesn't say that. So at this point, it's a he said, because we don't have that actual document or the video to actually watch. So that's a tough call. I think it's you at this point, you're going to believe who you want to believe, but they're both saying two totally different things. I've never dug too far into Stephen Avery, so I hate to comment, but I've always kind of just gotten a weird vibe from that dude. I just don't, with the amount of information the defense is providing, I cannot go and say I do think that this man's going to be found guilty in a court of law. I don't feel that way right now. The prosecution has a mountain to climb to prove that Richard Allen is the killer, in my opinion. Do KK or TK friends with any of the named men? Any connection KK would have been meeting the group. Makes sense why KK and RA no real connection. I was actually wondering when they're talking about Rod Abrams up there, and they're talking about the fact that Rod Abrams is saying that Elvis Fields did talk to underage girls online. Obviously, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if Elvis Fields did that or not. But the first thing I thought of when I read that was, is he tied to KK or TK or that crew? Is there is there a piece of the circle that we're missing? So I don't know. Johnny Kramer, I agree. We, the people, have not seen the proof yet. So all this might and probably is false. Yeah, we're saying that the investigators wouldn't lie on a document. I'm also saying I don't believe the defense attorneys are going to lie on a document. So is there things that are missing? Do they have more statements from her that potentially have not been given over in discovery? We know because this document came out on the 18th, I believe it was. And they had just gotten discovery or more discovery given to them on the 8th. Do they have other interviews with Betsy Blair that are going to say something else, or other interviews with Sarah Carbaugh that are going to say something else? So essentially, are they both telling the truth based on the information they have? Do you see what I mean? They didn't include any documents September 8th on. Well, yeah, because that's the thing too, is during this document, they say the state has told them that they have more to give them and they just have to go get it. But they still have all the stuff from the 8th. But I still have an issue with that. Why is stuff from 2017 and 2018 being released in discovery in September, almost a year after the arrest? Why wouldn't the oldest stuff be released first? You already have it. The stuff that should still be pending, you guys have to remember, this trial is it's due to start in January. It's due to start in January. Like, and they're still getting discovery at this point, and they're saying it's like completely unorganized, just voluminous amounts of discovery. So why wouldn't all the old stuff have already been there? Why are they just getting an interview of one of the guys? Do you know what I mean? Like, that they interviewed in 2018. Why would they not have had that back in January of this year or July? You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't make sense. And that bothers me. Is the discovery so disorganized because it's the cops have it disorganized? As in, like, they're a mess. They are disorganized so that everything they have is completely messed up. You know what I mean? It's like just messy, and that's how they're giving it over, because that's a problem. And then two, are they giving it over purposely messy to make it so it takes longer? Because we all know that happens. Yeah, I feel like there's something off about that. It's the same with Idaho. Yeah. Well, I mean, at this point, if you think about Idaho, they actually have almost all of the discovery based on what the prosecution has been given. Very much different from even Delphi. And that guy was arrested in October versus December. But I agree. Defense team are doing a great job at the moment. Ellie and prosecution must be worried, in my opinion. The whole investigation and handling in this case has been incompetent. And it's tough because they tried to hide everything under the guise of, we want to keep everything close to the vest so that we don't have to, you know, we can keep all these secrets so that we don't have to tell the public. And in turn, what that did was make everybody question them. And now when you have the defense who's coming out saying, hey, yeah, we think they are a bunch of corrupt assholes, the public's like, you know what? You're probably right. We've thought that from the beginning. You know what I mean? So it doesn't make me feel better. Hi, Aaron. It doesn't make me feel better about trusting the state. It feels like they just needed to arrest someone. And this is why I do believe they're going to have a very uphill battle to actually prove that he is the one, that he is the right one. They're going to have to show all these other avenues are just that they actually followed through on every single one. Otherwise, you have reasonable doubt. Indiana Ellie is ranked 45th out of 50. That does not surprise me at all. Hey, Days, thank you for the super sticker. Wouldn't be the first Patsy in history. And I don't believe that every case is a conspiracy. I don't think that everything is a conspiracy. I don't think that every true crime thing that happens in the world is a conspiracy. I really don't. And I actually really lean, you know, my dad's a retired cop, or he was a retired cop. You know, my uncle was a retired cop. My cousin runs one of the police departments in Illinois. I'm very, very pro law enforcement. I mean, I went to school to get my degree in criminal justice. I lean heavily towards law enforcement in general. I believe is trying to do the right thing. They're not going into the career to be millionaires, because we know they're not getting paid that much. And I think that the majority of them join because they think that they're going to be able to do good. And so I always lean towards that. I think that they're doing the best that they can. But then but that doesn't sweep under the rug that there are corrupt people and there are bad people. There are bad people in all different capacities of our world. You know, people we think are good and then they end up being bad. You know what I mean? So it's not, they don't all just go, okay, well, you're law enforcement, so I think that you're wonderful. I think that there can be some flawed folk there. And if you get into these groups, not to divert the conversation too much, but, you know, since my dad was a cop for so long, there was a lot of stuff that happened when he was a cop that, of course, he told me about as I got older. And it's a very political career. You can't, and that's why I said, like, the cops in here that are, the defense is saying are quote unquote like turning on their fellow cops. That is a very, very bad idea. And that takes a lot of cojones. You can't just, it's like the boys in blue. You have to back your boys in blue. You have to back each other. That can cause problems when the people who control your entire career and the people who control your income and the food that ends up on your family's plate, how do you turn on them knowing you're going down if you do? So it's tough. So I do think that there is, and one can spoil the entire bunch, because if that person is in a position of control, the other ones are kind of screwed. Things change when you're under oath, and unless you got to save your own ass, then sometimes those people will do what they got to do. That was one of the big issues that my dad had, was that they were subpoenaing him to testify, and it was to testify against another cop. And let me tell you, he did not want to do that. So this was my big question when we're talking about this, is why do they have, in this section, not the whole thing, hey, Sleuthy Goosey, why would they have a sketch from February 17th, and then they have a second sketch that's created on June 19th, months later? Why would they have not released the original sketch? Why did they wait months to get a different sketch from a different witness? Why wait months? Hi, Kaleidohope. My late husband was a county deputy. He made $652 a month in 2010. He worked full time. Yeah. Hey, Brother D, that's why it took 5 years, because Ellie knew Richard Allen's lawyers were going to do this. I don't know about that, but I'm not sold on all 136 pages, but there's a lot I feel the pros Ellie need to. Yes, that's where I'm at. I think there's a lot to unpack, and that's why it takes me so long to get through. I mean, shoot, we've only gone 4 pages so far. Right. So which one's telling the truth? We don't know, Miss Marple. We don't know which one's telling the truth, because we don't actually have Sarah Carbaugh's statement. Ooh, Julio. And that's interesting that you say that, because they really were putting it on Ron Logan at the beginning of all of this. They really thought he had something to do with it. And the people they were talking to, if you go back and you go through the search warrant for the probable cause for Ron Logan, it talks about that they were talking to people who said they believed that the person on the bridge was Ron Logan. So does the first sketch not look like Ron Logan? So they are like, nope, we can't put that out. Oh, second sketch looks much better. That's interesting. I don't know if that's accurate, but I mean, it's an interesting thought. David says essentially the same thing. Hi, Princess Megan Elsa. Hi, Ava. Hey, Stephanie. I think the biggest discrepancy is between Mary, who saw the young 20s looking guy on the bridge. That's Betty. Betsy Blair saw the guy on the bridge. Or are you talking about, I know who you're talking about. You're talking about the young girls. Are you talking about the young girls? I don't remember their names off the top of my head. I should, but I don't. There was 3 that were interviewed of the 4. Who saw the heavyset older guy with money? That supposedly were not bloody. That's Sarah Carbaugh. Thanks, C-Dub. It's tiring, though. Ooh, thank you, Sleuthy. I know what that is, but I'm going to have to look at that in a little bit. No, and you are absolutely fine. I have been all over the place. There's so much happening in true crime. I had to cancel my Delphi live yesterday because of Suzanne Morphew, and then this morning was the West sentencing, so I've been all over the place myself. No apologies. RL was too tall. Well, they originally said that the person on the bridge they believed was 5'8" to 5'10". It is, right? And so think about that, Julio. Think about the fact that the Ron Logan affidavit is extremely persuasive, and all the reasons they believed that it was him, and then take it to the next probable cause, and all the reasons they believe it was him. That's also why I don't think that the quote unquote symbols or the runes or any of that stuff would alter getting a search warrant for Richard Allen. It's not legally how it works. You don't have to be like, well, here's our entire case and now give us a search warrant. No, you just have to have probable cause that you believe that you're going to find items of interest that tie to this crime in that person's home, car, XYZ. It's okay. Yeah, I get them all mixed up myself. Yes, that's Betsy. A lot of people do, Julio. A lot of people do. He's 5'4". That was on his documentation. Sleuthing Juicy, I went live this morning and I said it was Tuesday. That's why, because I don't even know what day of the week is. I'm like, happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm like, oh shit, it's actually Thursday. Sorry. That's how my brain's gone this week. That just goes to show how easy you can get probable cause. It's absolutely true. And so the defense can still use all of that too. And it's like, look, they thought it was this guy. Then they thought it was this guy. Look at how much they followed up with this guy. But why didn't they do all that with this guy? Why did they get all these search warrants with this probable cause for Ron Logan, but they didn't do the same for Brad Holder, even though they were getting tips about Brad Holder for ever. They kept ruling it out, and then more people were calling in Brad Holder. So, all right, but this is interesting to me. There's a reason they did not release the first sketch, and I guess in my mind, I just kind of thought they were given both sketches around the same time. And so they picked one to release that was maybe from a more accurate representation. But I swear, and I'm going to have to go digging to figure out why I think this, because in my brain, I'm telling you, I thought the first sketch released had to do with the video, that they created that sketch based off the video. And now, like, this is totally kind of throwing me because my brain is disagreeing with this information, even though it's written right here. Aaron, I'm not gonna highlight that, but you ain't wrong, girl. You ain't wrong. I thought for sure that the first sketch released had something to do with that it was drawn from that video. Somebody told me that at one point, and it stuck with me apparently. So we know first sketch drawn, second one released is from Betsy on the bridge. Second sketch drawn, first sketch released, older bridge guy, was actually drawn in June of 2017. And even though it was drawn then, they still didn't even release it to the public until July. That's a lot of time for Sarah Carbaugh to have to go without giving the details of a sketch or the details of who she saw. Isn't that weird? Why have Betsy do it 3 days later, but have Sarah do it 4 months later? No, I thought that it had to do, Johnny, I thought that when I was told that it was supposed to be like the generated by the video and the eyewitness, like they used both and like put it together. I don't know. I can't even tell you why I think that. I don't even know where I heard that from now. Maybe you have a good point, because being a watchdog that we all going to start calling BS because we have time, manpower to do so. Yup. You do, huh? I think a lot of people are leaning that way, and apparently they have for a really long time. Brother D thinks it's Richard Allen. They have a lot to explain in court. Well, they might have announced that about the first sketch, but they lied through their teeth about how they came up with the young guy sketch. What do you remember about them saying how they came up with it? The voice on the phone could be an older person's. It doesn't sound like a 20-year-old, does it? Not a 20-year-old guys that I would recognize. It does sound like an older man to me. In the Ron Logan document, it says that his voice does not match that person. But they do say, I wonder if I actually have that up. Let me see. I think is it this one? This is law enforcement. He says, we released a voice and we released a photograph. This is back on March 23rd of 2017. But we're not saying they're the same person because, quite frankly, we don't know. That's a great question, MK. I don't know. And I hate to say that, but these bodies were found in the woods on Ron Logan's property. They got a search warrant for his house. Funny how the cops in the Karen Reed case didn't bother to search the home of that homeowner. Karen Reed's another one that I've been really digging into, but there's just too much on my plate. Do you remember them saying that they wanted to know if anyone saw an abandoned car at the old CPS building? Yes, I do remember that. And I remember there being a lot of different vehicles that people came forward and said they saw around the CPS building at the time. My dear, lots of pressure, and they fear losing their pension if they lose their... Exactly. I was just wondering, when did they release the bridge video? Was it right after everything happened, or did they wait to release it? Wouldn't RA see it and say, hey, that was me? So they released images, I believe 3. I believe they released 3 still shots from the video, and they released Down the Hill. Then they released the video and then released and added where it says guys. But Down the Hill is actually at the end of the video, because it's hard to explain, but there's 43 seconds of audio and video, but it's only part of it actually has video, because it's like either Libby put it in her pocket or had it like down where you couldn't see anything. So it only picks up the audio. So it's 43 seconds long, but there's not like visual to the entire thing. It's a toss-up, Chadwell, Holder, or Allen, but police did say there was more than one voice on the recording other than Abby and Libby. That's what one of the things I was just talking about too. Yeah. It says it's not inconsistent, but it's also it's not consistent. Do I have that up still? Let me see where it's at here. Here, yeah, his voice is not inconsistent, but it doesn't say it's consistent. You guys see that? I don't know if you guys can even see that. Yeah, so not consistent, not inconsistent. And Ron Logan wore a fanny pack that his ex said was a fancy one, and that he sometimes kept a gun in the fanny pack. Ooh, perfect. Okay. It's like they didn't get what they needed with the older person sketch. And so then they decided to go ahead and release the first sketch. And then they were like, everybody stop looking at the other sketch. This is the right one. And it's like, what? For 2 years, you had everybody looking in the wrong direction? Oh, perfect. Okay. Let me see this one. Let me download it because that way I can zoom in on it. Come on. Multi-agency task force clarifies points about the Delphi murder suspect sketches. This is 2019. Let me just get it to come up. I think it's this one. Come on. Okay, you guys see this one now? In the early days and months of the Delphi murder investigation, information was developed about suspect descriptions. It was initially believed the sketch that has been in public view over the last 2 years of a person in the age range of his 40s to 50s was a person of interest in this murder investigation. Now, as the investigation has matured and past information has been reassessed, it is the belief of investigators with the multi-agency task force that the person depicted in the sketch released on April 22nd more accurately represents the person wanted for the murders of Abigail and Liberty. It is important to distinguish these points about the two sketches. They are not the same person. Let me see. There you go. They are not the same person. The person depicted in the originally released sketch is not presently a person of interest in this investigation. The sketch released on April 22nd is representative of the face of the person captured in the video on Liberty German's cell phone as he was walking on the high bridge. The person in the sketch released on April 22nd is described as having a youthful appearance, but could fall in the age range from his 20s to late 30s. This person's appearance could look different today if he has grown a mustache, beard, or let his hair grow longer or cut his hair shorter than depicted in the sketch. This is so problematic to me. Thank you, Sleuthy, for sending this. I appreciate it. This is such an issue for me because they actually go back and end up arresting somebody who looks more like the first sketch than he does the second sketch. I remember them saying, like, it's two different people. We don't want the public to be like putting those two images together. Like, don't put the images together. And then, of course, like us in the public, we're like, ooh, we're going to put the images together. Well, yeah, it sounds like that. Well, she said he was 20. That's what Betsy says. He was 20. But why did they not put her sketch out? It's not like they had both sketches at the same time. So why not release her sketch right away? When they arrested RA, I was willing to listen to what they had with an open mind, but sorry, RL really stands out to me as the best suspect still. Yeah. Or I wanted to believe it was RA, but LE in the press conference didn't sell me on it. Yeah, and they confused everybody even more. I do believe it was more than one, or it was Alan alone. And if he's schizo, he might become someone else, even change voice and voice chords. Maybe he might slip into a different mind. I was reading like old posts when Richard Allen got arrested. I don't think I wonder if I saved it, but it was like a bartender. Do you guys remember this? Was a bartender from that bar they hung out at, that Richard Allen and his wife hung out like every weekend, and there's like tons of pictures of them there like playing pool and whatnot. And it was of the bartender like talking about how he got really pissed off one time. Obviously, I am reading it now. I did not go and vet if this person is even who they say they were, but it was just an interesting like comment that he was always like super chill, super calm, real nice guy. And then one time he was like losing the tournament and he got like super pissed off and like threatened to beat the crap out of his wife. Whether that's legit or not, I was just like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, they can if they believe that other people were actually involved. Yeah. Hey, Jane. Hey, Margaret. Maybe there's more than one, and that changed the task to find out who was there. Mm-hmm. Hey, Jen. 25 minutes behind, so not sure if this was addressed, but did they not show the witnesses' photos, a lineup, anything for such a horrific case? You think they would have? So that was one thing I was actually wondering about before, too, is they're saying that this person, that these people end up, after they arrested Richard Allen, you know, they're saying that they do identify him, and that they match him to being that person that was on the bridge. They're kind of going like, yeah, no, they say it is him, that's the guy they saw. But did they actually give him like a six pack like lineup? Did they give him like all the photos to actually look at it? I don't know. That's something that I think those are the details I think that we'll find out closer to trial. I always thought RL knew to look away or something to that effect. Well, you know, he had his whole quote unquote alibi that he had gone to the dump that day and then went to like the aquarium store in Lafayette, but those were not at the same time. Those were not at the time that the girls were killed. And then they have his phone pinging on his property around the time that the girls would have been right there. He's not a bad suspect. I don't know what happened with it and how they ended up saying nope, not the guy, but there are a few people who've always thought that the guys in the Down the Hill are two different voices. So we know that that doesn't go together. The person does not say guys down the hill. It's down the hill and then guys, and it's in two separate parts of the audio, and they put them together. And then why they created it where it says guys down the hill, why that you have to ask law enforcement. Why did they think that was the necessary way to do it? But it's technically two different parts. I don't know which one comes first. And there are a lot of people who think it's actually two different people talking. Guys down the hill. Guys down the hill. It is two separate parts of the audio, though, and you start splicing stuff together, shit doesn't sound the same anymore. Hi, Sluice. In my opinion, he's a raging alcoholic, but not a killer. He seems too risky to be a killer again, in my opinion. Are you talking about Richard Allen? Hey, Squeaky Wheel. Which is garbage, pretty much, yeah. I mean, they only show them basically the same thing. They're not even showing them like a full thing. They're not getting the whole thing, I doubt. People seem to skip over the part where RA's wife would have known it was him on the bridge. He told her he was there, told the cops he was there. They did nothing, likely thought second sketch was Guy. Well, everybody seemed to know that he was there and nobody thought anything of it. And yet everybody around Ron Logan was like, that's Ron Logan. Oh yeah, absolutely. They're doing interviews. They were talking about how they just went back and were interviewing some of these guys after their depositions. No, you're not supposed to do that, Thistle. I'm kind of leaning towards others. That screenshot was downloaded from LG Friend, then Snapchat was gone. Yeah, there was two photos posted, one of just the bridge and one of Abby. And I know that a few of the other kids grabbed him. Bridge guy looked calm walking in that video, not crazy. He looked like he had done this before. Well, I think that people who don't know the case and they see the video and hear the audio, guys down the hill, they think that guy walking right there is saying guys down the hill. Well, people who know the case, we know that that video, that person's not talking in that video. What we hear is completely separate. It's not coming from the video of him walking, but the general public's like, oh yeah, guys down the hill. They interviewed Richard and he said he was there in a blue jacket, so that gave them probable cause to search the house where they found the evidence to arrest him. I don't disagree. The problem I have is if the witness statements and comparing, or those witnesses saying that it was Richard Allen that they saw on the bridge, when they're looking at this bridge video and they're going back in their mind, you know, what, it was 5.5 years at the time, then my issue becomes, does Liggett lie about what those people are saying? And that I don't know that he did, because we don't have those statements. I don't think that any of the cult stuff or the symbolism or any of that actually would throw out a search warrant. This is a lot, and in my opinion, it's going to be really good for a defense team to bring forward, you know, at trial and to create reasonable doubt and give the prosecution a run for their money. I think that's a really good idea. I just don't think it's going to work for what they're trying to get it to work for right now. I don't think they did, K-Braze. Supposedly, you hear one of the girls asking if the creepy guy is still following them. I think they say it's Abby. And then, what do you mean? Wait, T, what happened? What happened? Hold on. And then the other one is like, yes. And then there's rumors that on the audio, you can hear them say that he has a gun. The other part was that the rumor was that people said you could hear the gun like being cocked, and that's how they knew it was a gun. Richard Allen's arrest is the first and only place they put that phrase as fluid sentence, guys down the hill. Ooh, near the end of the video, a male is seen and heard telling the girls, guys down the hill. Well, that's interesting because it's supposedly two different parts of the audio. In Richard Allen's probable cause, they have it where it says the male ordered the girls, guys, down the hill. No witnesses saw them after this time, but no witnesses actually saw them before that time really either. So one of the victims mentions gun. Okay, as the male subject approaches victim 1 and victim 2, one of the victims mentions gun. Near the end of the video, a male is seen and heard telling the girls, guys, down the hill. The girls then begin to proceed down the hill. The video ends. A still photograph taken from the video and the guys down the hill audio was subsequently released to the public to assist investigators in identifying the male. Oh, goodness gracious. So, okay, so they hear them say gun. No, Sleuthy, don't you dare be quiet. We're gonna so after we're done with this doc, I'm telling you, we're gonna have to like do like a Delphi on rewind kind of thing, like we're gonna do with Idaho and all the interviews and all the things. Like we have all the press conferences, all of that. We're just gonna have to start going back through because there is some of the stuff that I just don't remember because there's so much of it. There's zero mention. There's zero mention in the Ron Logan probable cause about a bullet. That's what Sleuthy just said. There's zero mention about a bullet in the Ron Logan one. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? They have this bullet that they supposedly found. And I know in the Ron Logan one, they do say, you know, he's got a bunch of knives. Okay, let me go back up. First, I need a drink. This case just blows my mind. I know it just goes and goes and goes. It doesn't ever stop. I know, and Shay Bené's not here right now, but she'll message me and she'll be like, I'm down a totally different rabbit hole. I'm like, get out. Get out. There's too many. Hey, Nikki Jean, this was not random. Nobody who hasn't killed before just wakes up at 50 years old and decides to commit a double homicide of 2 children on a random Monday afternoon in a public place. Just no. I'm with you on that. that's always been a thing to me. Like he's not going to just decide now, okay, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and start killing people. And then that adds to the fact that if there really is runes and symbols and all these things, we know the girls are posed, regardless whether you believe there's symbols and runes. The girls are absolutely posed, one with the other one's clothes on, other clothes are missing. Does Richard Allen just go, hey, I'm going to spend all this extra time at a crime scene in the middle of the afternoon to make it look like these weirdo or Odinites did this and not me? They'll never figure it out. But it's like you're going to spend that much extra time to create that and to now not only pose the girls but stage the crime scene. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. If you're doing it for the thrill of the kill, and this is what you've been waiting 50 years of your life to do, you're going to go. You're going to leave. It's also one of the reasons, like when we talk about Idaho, I think that was Brian's first kill, because he did not stick around to marinate in his glory of doing what he wanted to do. That's my thought. That's not to go too many cases at the same time, but that's how my brain works. Okay, sleuths. See, I think the girls were ambushed towards the end of the bridge. BG was behind them and someone else was ahead of them. They can't jump off the bridge, so they complied, especially if there's a gun. Now, if that's the case, then how come BG, whoever that is, and in one of the initial documents, they say nobody's ever come forward to say that they were BG, so we believe that BG is the one on The Voice. Do you see what I'm saying? Why doesn't this BG person say BG is Richard Allen or BG is Ron Logan or any of these other people? And he's there and he sees the girls. Why has nobody ever come forward and said, I was literally behind them. I watched them go down the hill. I just didn't think anything about it. I thought they were going off with their dad or their uncle or somebody they knew, because nobody said anything. It just looked normal. They were procured through the AS profile and setup. Sadly, Libby deleted her messages with help of her sister a day or two before they went to meet this guy. They'll have to testify. Yeah, well, we're gonna, yeah, once this is all done, we're gonna know most of it, whatever's let into the trial, and hopefully we get cameras. Did they identify him in a photo lineup or just provide sketch? In my opinion, a sketch doesn't prove a man. I don't know that yet. If it says it in the document we're reading through, I haven't got there yet, but when watching Delphi and Idaho investigations is telling, they are gold standard good guys, only know right way, so reckless they are stunned at times. I do enjoy Ed Wallace a lot. The initial cops completely botched this case. Richard Allen's original interview should have gotten him arrested within days. It was lost in the paperwork, and then 5 years goes by before someone wakes up. Yeah. And so what else is lost then? What else is hidden or misfiled or whatever you call it? It is. And so now I'm questioning the validity of it being two separate things. But from the get-go, that's why I said I'm gonna have to do a whole thing like on rewind, because I have to go through all my own why I think the things I think. Did they hear one of them say gun, or what were they trying to make that bullet found near the girl somehow connect to the person on the bridge? Nah, great question. There's always been talk about the person on the bridge having a gun, though. That, like, just like how we talked about like these symbols and these runes from the beginning, there's always been talk about bridge guy having a gun. They say they have photographs of it actually buried there, but according to the defense, and apparently according to Liot, nobody has seen chain of custody photographs of that bullet at all. And then somebody actually commented under one of the lives too, that they remembered hearing that the bullet was actually sitting on the desk of one of the officers for like 5 years. And I remember hearing that, but once again, like I said, I've gone down so many rabbit holes with this case. It's like, I don't want to fill you guys full of like just all the innuendos and theories and all the things that I've seen over years. You know what I mean? I'm trying to stick with as much factual stuff as I can. But, you know, like human nature, our brain kind of starts meshing two of those things together, and we got to go back and straighten it all back out. Yeah, and after that, yep. Ooh, yeah, Thistle, don't do that. Unedited 43. Supposedly hippie chick. The only people that have heard it are law enforcement and the families. Is that accurate? I have no freaking idea. There's more than 39 seconds of recording in the first release. It was 39 minutes. Police said the girls succumbed to death, they believe, on the... Hold on. Police refused to release all the recording. We're only seeing 30. I originally had heard that the audio was 2 minutes long. That was like one of the original statements that came out about the case, was that the audio was 2 minutes long, and then it came out that it was actually 43 seconds. You know, what? Yeah, how do you end up just ejecting that round? So they think that, or the theories going around is that like he goes and cocks the gun. And I'm not a gun person, so once again, Sniper, I know you're probably listening. You'll be able to tell me whether I'm right or wrong. They believe that he possibly like cocks the gun when he's on the bridge or at the top of the hill. A bullet falls out, puts it in his pocket, and then he goes, and as he's doing whatever he's doing with the girls, it falls out, and then he doesn't realize it fell out. Yeah, I don't know. Just throwing stuff out there. Yep, just throwing it out there. Hey, yes, Hockett. It now makes me wonder why Ellie withheld the information about the sketch. That makes me wonder it myself. If you already had a sketch of this person, why'd you wait months to go get a second one and then put that out? Yep. And how are you going to say that both? That's the other thing, is if we go back to that search warrant, hold on, I'm going to have to look at that. If we go back to the search warrant, Richard Allen's search warrant, the whole point of the Frank's motion, does it not say in there that both witnesses, both sketches, both witnesses, Sarah and Betsy, said that it was that their person they saw was Bridge Guy? Does it not say that? I know that the document's kind of long. I'm gonna have to write that down for myself. Or if you guys want to, you guys go look and check. Because if it does say that, they're adamantly saying it's two different people. So both of those witnesses can't say it's the same person. Do you guys see what I'm saying here? Am I just making shit up? Oh man, I got way behind in chat. I'm sorry, you guys. Okay, so this is what I was wondering too. That's what I was thinking. A video would only end if someone calls, like Libby's dad calling to say he's there. What if somebody manually shut it off and just left it? Hi, Aris. There was a number of sketches. Yeah, and why didn't they ever have the teenage girl, the group of girls, do a sketch? Why didn't they ever go see the sketch artist? And why do these two girls have two different sketch artists? I have so many questions right now. This case is frying in my brain. Yeah. What was supposed to be RA's motive? I haven't ever heard that discussed. thrill kill, pretty much, that this is what he's been waiting 50 years of his life to do. That there is no motive. And one of the next sections, when we get to it, it is about how he has no ties to anything to do with these girls. He has no ties to anything to do with the crime scene. There's no, well, we'll read it. Yeah, they lost everybody else's too. That's why I'm like, how many interviews are gone then? Okay, we're gonna go back to reading this. We're at Betsy's. Betsy's given hers, and they wait months, and they get a second one, and they decide, okay, we like the second one better. Let's put that out. And that happens to be Sarah's, who says she saw him on 300 North, and they brought a sketch artist named Plants in from Detroit. I mean, good artist, but it's interesting. And they released that one in July of 2017. The person that Sarah Carbaugh was describing in her sketch, who was the person Sarah Carbaugh was describing in her sketch? According to Liot's affidavit, at approximately 3:57 p.m., Sarah Carbaugh observed a man walking westbound on County Road 300 North. Sarah Carbaugh was headed eastbound on County Road 300 North, operating her motor vehicle while simultaneously observing this man walking on the road toward her in the opposite side of the road. This is the same man that Sarah Carbaugh described for the sketch artist on June 19th, 2017. We will be discussing Sarah Carbaugh's description of that man later. Oh, great. Whew. Roughly 2 years later, in March 2019, Betsy Blair met with Tony Liot, frustrated that her sketch number 2, had not been released to the public, which is actually sketch number 1 drawn. Betsy was frustrated because sketch number 1, which had been released to the public almost 2 years before, did not match the man that she, Betsy Blair, observed on the high bridge. Betsy even commented that sketch number 1 was wrong. Hold on, I got a tiny human. Give me 1 second, you guys. All right, all clear. Tiny human alert. Why did the polygraph lady and her daughter die in an arson fire? She did the polygraph to Elvis's sister and Holder's wife. She did a polygraph on Holder's wife? I didn't know that there was a polygraph done on Holder's wife. Okay. Where was I? Betsy even commented that sketch number 1 was wrong. Certainly, it was odd that the Sarah Carbaugh sketch was chosen to be released over the Betsy Blair sketch for the following reasons. Probably what I already said. Great. See, I'm telling you guys, I should just not talk and just keep reading. Betsy Blair provided her description to the sketch artist only 4 days after seeing the man on the bridge, while it was fresh on her mind, compared with Sarah Carbaugh, who provided her description to the sketch artist 126 days after she observed the man on the road. Betsy Blair had a good look at the man's face while stationary from only 50 feet away. Sarah was not stationary, but rather traveling down the road, operating her vehicle while simultaneously trying to observe the man on the road. During her March 7th, 2017 interview, Betsy Blair was talking with 2 members of Unified Command, Kevin Hammond and Tony Liggett. At this interview, Betsy Blair told Liggett face-to-face that the man Betsy Blair, observed on the high bridge fit the following description. The man was slender and youthful looking. He was more boyish looking. The man was in his 20s to 30s. Okay, so before she had said on February 17th, she said he was 20. Now it's 20s to early 30s. His hair seemed poofy, just as the sketch portrayed. He had no facial hair that she could remember. Finally, on April 22nd, 2019, Unified Command released Betsy Blair's sketch number 2 to the general public. In fact, upon its release, Superintendent Doug Carter commented that the man in Blair's sketch number 2 was responsible for the murders. Also, at the time of the release of the sketch number 2, Doug Carter also stated that sketch number 1 had now become secondary to the investigation. On March 7th, 2019, Liggett was present when Betsy Blair described the man she observed on the bridge. Betsy was actually talking to Liggett face-to-face when she provided the description. Liggett heard Betsy's description of a much younger man with brown poofy hair, but chose to conceal this information from Judge Diener. Blair's description of a youthful, boyish-looking person in his 20s, maybe early 30s, with brown poofy hair, obviously does not at all describe Richard Allen. In order for Liggett to have provided Judge Diener with honest and accurate information, he would have had to state the following in his affidavit. I, Tony Liggett, believe that Richard Allen is the man that murdered the girls for reasons stated herein. I also believe that the man that Betsy Blair observed on the bridge is Richard Allen, and therefore the killer. However, I must also inform the court that the man that Betsy Blair observed on the bridge really looks nothing like Richard Allen. This is them writing the search warrant for Liggett, by the way. Whereas Richard Allen was a man in his mid-40s with short or even shaved grayish hair, the man that Betsy Blair described was youthful, boyish looking, and had brown poofy hair. Also, Your Honor, Betsy Blair told the sketch artist that the man she saw on the bridge was just 20 years old. This description came only 4 days after she observed the man on the bridge. 2 years later, Betsy Blair still maintains that the man was in his 20s or maybe early 30s. Also, Betsy Blair told the sketch artist back in 2017 that the resemblance of the boyish sketch to the man that she observed on the bridge was a 10 out of 10. I must also tell you, Judge, that this 10 out of 10 sketch looks absolutely nothing like Richard Allen. That's not how that's going to work. Okay, let me see what they say. Doug Carter's press conference. Sketch number 1 became secondary, and the business is confusing considering Liggett's and Holman's claim that sketch number 1 and sketch number 2 are the same person. But they actually... See, I'm telling you, I got to go back to that. Let me pull it up real quick. Is this it? Whose search warrant is this? This is Logan's. Hold. I'm going to find the other one real quick because... Where the hell did I put it? Okay, I got it, computer. Leave me alone. Why are you not letting me do what I want to do? What the fudge? Why is it doing that? It doesn't want to let me in my Google Drive. Why does my computer not want me to get in my own Google Drive all of a sudden? That's fine. I'm sure I can just Google it. What do I want? Richard Allen search warrant. Why can I not find that? All right, well, that's going to have to wait, I guess, because I don't know what the just going on with my computer. Yeah, the search warrant, not the probable cause for arrest, the search warrant. Yeah, if somebody could send it to me, that'd be great, because I don't know why my computer, my Google Drive is not working. And I don't know why. It's released. I have it. I just can't get into my Google Drive. It's the search warrant for Richard Allen's house. It's okay. I'll pull it up another time. No big deal. I just want to go back through it because I'm telling you guys, in that is where Liot says that both of the girls recognized and say that their person they saw while they were there is Richard Allen or is Bridge Guy. But hi, Scottish Queen. Oh, we've been live for about an hour and 40 minutes. That's gonna frustrate me though on why I can't get my stuff to work. That worries me. I don't like that because I have a lot of stuff in there. Okay, so the fact that Sarah Carbaugh's sketch number one became secondary to the investigation is confusing, considering Liggett and Holman's claim that sketch number one and sketch number two are the same person. See Exhibit 107, which is Blair's interview, March 7th interview. Find attached the videotaped interview of Richard Allen. This will provide an image of Richard Allen. Yeah. Find attached a transcript of the statement of Kathy Martins when Kathy was asked what length Richard's hair would have been in 2017. Kathy said, Richard has always had short hair. In fact, when asked for further description of how her husband has always worn his hair, Kathy said Richard, shaved it, explaining that he had always shaved since being in the National Guard. Liggett had a legal obligation to inform Judge Diener of the vast differences between Betty Blair's description of the man she observed on the bridge and Richard Allen. He did not. The fact alone should be sufficient to merit tossing the warrant and suppressing the fruits of an illegal search. However, there is more. In order for Liggett's timeline to work, he needs Richard Allen's black Ford Focus to be parked at the CPS lot from 1:30 until 4:30. Betsy Blair sees one car at the CPS lot at 2:15 p.m., and it is not Richard Allen's car. Richard Allen voluntarily was interviewed on October 13th, 2022. Watching the videotaped interview, it is apparent that Richard thought he was being asked questions to help assist the public in solving the crime. In trying to provide Liggett and Mullen a timeline of when Richard Allen, was at the trail, Richard stated he arrived at the trail around noon. Later in the interview, Richard Allen told Liggett and Mullen that he probably left the trail around 1:30. In his affidavit, Liggett states that Richard Allen parked his black Ford Focus at the CPS parking lot and then cut over to the trail, where Richard Allen, then walked to the high bridge, ultimately following Abby and Libby across the bridge before abducting them. After murdering the girls, Liggett stated in his affidavit that Betsy Carbaugh, they put both the names together here. It's either Betsy Blair or Sarah Carbaugh. Observed a man that Liggett claims is Richard Allen. So this is supposed to be Sarah Carbaugh. Observed a man that Liggett claims is Richard Allen walking along 300 North at approximately 3:57 westbound toward the CPS parking lot. The implication being that Richard Allen was walking back to his car after abducting and murdering the girls. Okay, in his original interview that they supposedly found in 2022, he says he was there from 1:30 to 3:30, I think. And then, so this is the one that he's now being interviewed in October of 2022. And now he's like, wait a minute. He probably doesn't remember the times at that point. I don't know. It's 5.5 years later. If what Liggett wrote in his affidavit were true, then Richard Allen's black Ford Focus would have been parked in the CPS lot from 1:30 until at least 4, giving him time to abduct the girls, murder the girls, and walk back to his black Ford Focus parked at the CPS parking lot sometime after 3:57 p.m. when Sarah Carbaugh observed Richard walking down 300 North. And I'm almost positive he tells them originally he was there from 1:30 to 3:30 approximately. And so him being there at 3:57 would not really be an issue. But his car, the black Ford Focus, would have had to have been there where Betsy Blair says she saw a car. Thank you, Lynn. I'll look at him. Thank you. Hey, Ramblin'. Yeah, Elvis's sister was polygraphed. She's the only one that I knew that was polygraphed. I didn't know that they did Amber. In other words, for Liggett's timeline to work, Richard Allen's black Ford Focus would have had to have remained parked there from 1:30 to after 4. Yeah, I think I think that would work based on his original statement. If Richard's black Ford Focus was not on that CPS parking lot between those hours, then Liggett's timeline would be blown. In his deposition, Liggett was asked a series of questions by defense counsel, and Liggett answered those questions as follows. I think he said he was there between 1:30 and 3:30, not from 1:30 to 3:30. Oh, Stephanie, thank you. You could be right. And sometimes that one word can change everything. Hold on, Rose. RA is on video passing the Harvester building at 27? 127? Almost maybe. Okay, question. Is it your contention that Richard Allen's black Ford Focus was parked at the old CPS building at 1:29 roughly p.m. on February 13th? Yes. This is defense counsel questioning Liggett in his deposition. Is it your contention that Richard Allen's black Ford Focus was parked at the CPS building at 1:45? Yes. Is it your contention that the Ford Focus was parked at the CPS building at 2? Yes. 2:14? Yes. 2:15? Yes. 2:30? Yes. 2:45? Yes. 3 o'clock? Yes. 3:15? Yes. 3:30? Yes. 3:45? Yes. 4 o'clock? Yes. 4:30? No. What time do you contend that Richard Allen's black Ford Focus was no longer parked at the old CPS building? Around 4. Through his answers, Liggett demonstrated that he recognized that for his timeline to work, Richard Allen's black Ford Focus would have to have been parked at the CPS lot from 1:30 to 4 in order to give Richard the time to abduct and murder the girls and return to his vehicle. Therefore, if there was any evidence that Richard Allen's black Ford Focus was not parked in the old CPS parking lot between those times, that is something that he, Liot, would be required to share with Judge Diener. Rather than tell the truth, Liot concealed the evidence that Richard's black Ford Focus had left the CPS parking lot probably at 1:30, but certainly before 2:15, when Blair saw a completely different car. And therefore, Richard Allen could not have been on the bridge at 2 p.m. or committed the murder soon thereafter. Because Betsy Blair is going to make a really good defense witness, I think. I mean, saying you were there from 1:30 to 3:30 could mean you were there at 1:20 to 3. It's a rough time he was given. Yeah. Oh, Marshall, thank you. Come on. Too bad you didn't have some sodium pentothal hanging around. Oh, did you do a lie detector? Okay, for starters, as noted earlier in his interview with Liot and Mullen, Richard Allen stated that Richard Allen, arrived at the trails around noon and left around 1:30. Liot failed to inform Judge Diener that Richard Allen stated he had left the trails at 1:30. He should have, especially if there were evidence that a different vehicle was parked at the old CPS lot after 1:30 but before 4, which would then support Richard Allen's statement that Richard Allen, left the CPS building around 1:30. So the next question to ask is, did anyone see a vehicle parked at the old CPS building between 1:30 and 4 that did not resemble Richard Allen's black Ford Focus, thus supporting the timeline that Richard Allen provided to Liot, but which Liot concealed from Judge Diener? The answer is yes, Betsy Blair. When Betsy Blair arrived at the trail at roughly 1:46, she had parked her vehicle in a different location that the defense calls the Mears parking lot. When she left the Monon Trail and pulled out of the Mears parking lot, Betsy Blair headed west on 300 North in her car and was spotted on the Hoosier Harvest Store camera, heading toward the old CPS lot at 2:14. The old CPS lot is only a 36-second drive from the Hoosier Harvest Store camera, giving Betsy Blair a full minute to drive from the Hoosier Harvest Store to the old CPS lot would mean that Betsy Blair would pass the CPS lot at 2:15. Remember that Liot has admitted under oath that at 2:15, Richard Allen's black Ford Focus would be parked at the CPS building while Richard Allen, was abducting and murdering the girls. However, at 2:15 p.m., when Betsy Blair passed the old CPS building, she did not see a black Ford Focus parked at the old CPS lot. The car that Betsy saw or observed as she passed the old CPS building at 2:15 looked nothing like a black Ford Focus. According to Liot's own report, Betsy Blair observed one car parked in the CPS lot at 2:15, and that car resembled a 1965 Ford Comet that her father had once owned. The shape had sharper angles. Again, to whom did Betsy Blair provide this description of a 1965 Ford Comet-looking angular in appearance vehicle? And none other than Liot himself. Liot was fully aware that the car that Betsy Blair described as being backed into a spot at the old CPS building looked nothing like Richard Allen's black Ford Focus, but Liot concealed that information from Judge Diener. Jesus criminy. Is that the one that is on, I think it's on Big Solves? Is it that one? Lynn, I have watched that, and it's a good documentary. It is all over the place. Criminality between you and ATS and all the Americans I've started to know. I'm texting like y'all. Well, I was telling them the other day that I'm starting to say y'all when I don't even, people in Southern California don't say y'all. I know, it's like repetitive. Hi, Candy Cane. It's probably a reasonable explanation. I'm not too savvy with tech, but whenever I hear that noise, some detail is not quite right. Yeah, me too. Yeah, that her dad owned a similar car to it. Like her dad used to own a 1965 Ford Comet, and she said the car that she saw in the CPS parking lot had sharper angles than that car, but it looked similar to the car her dad owned, which does not look anything like a Ford Focus. Right, as Hockett, I know. Eris. This is like so much info. This is so much info that's like blurring in my brain. I need to write it all out in my own words without 136 pages. Once I'm done with that, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to sit down and go through and just make it so it's like comprehensible in my own mind, because this is just so much. And once again, I still don't, unless he lied and said in the search warrant that she saw a 19 or a 19 or a blah, 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 unless he lied and said that she saw a what looked like a Ford Focus. And I do recall that he does say that there was a car that was backed in weirdly, but I don't remember who he says saw it. It should also be noted that if Richard Allen left at 1:30 p.m., then the person that Betsy Blair observed on the high bridge around at roughly 2 p.m. was not Richard Allen. This would explain why the person that Betsy Blair observed on the high bridge looking nothing like Richard Allen, because it wasn't Richard Allen. It was a 20-year-old kid with brown poofy hair. Concealing Betsy Blair's description of the vehicle at the old CPS building from Judge Diener may have temporarily plugged a hole in the dam of Liggett's problematic timeline when Diener reviewed the affidavit on October 13th, 2022. But Liggett's concealment has now been exposed. I would, even if they don't even show us like the trial, like I want to see them cross-examine. I want to see him cross-examine Liggett. That is going to be fire. Okay, let's see. Defense counsel recognized that in 1965, Ford did not make a comment. Okay, Mercury did. But these were the words of Betsy Blair, who knew what the comet looked like, but erroneously thought that Ford produced the comet. Okay. Liggett's report. Obviously, I mean, there's a big difference between an older car and a new car, or a newer car. So I don't think that's it. Scottish Queen, I have heard so many cars, like the purple, what was that, purple PT Cruiser, the white truck, the white car, the 19 now the Ford Comet that the Mercury made. Latest report previously entered as Exhibit 105. Betsy even provided a sketch of the side profile of the car that she observed at the CPS lot at 2:15, featuring the angles that the car possessed. Blair's sketch of the side profile of the car is attached here too and marked as Exhibit 113. The sketch definitely looks nothing like the side profile of Richard Allen's Ford Focus. A photo of a Ford Focus similar to the one owned by Richard Allen is also attached. And it gets even worse. Fucking great. 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 That's all I need is to get worse. When asked to describe the color of the car that resembles a 1965 Ford Comet, Betsy Blair actually told Liggett that the car she saw was not black. That is right. Liggett heard from the mouth of Betsy Blair that the 1965 Ford Comet-looking vehicle was not even black, which is the color that Liggett needed the vehicle to be in order to fit the description of Richard's black Ford Focus as described in the affidavit. Because of Betsy's description of the car she viewed at the old CPS building, evidence supports that Richard Allen left at 1:30, as he told Liggett. At some point in time after Richard left the old CPS lot, an older, angular-looking car that resembled a 1965 Comet and was not black arrived at the old CPS building. Then the driver of this 1965 Ford Comet-looking angular non-black vehicle backed into the CPS parking lot. At roughly 2:15 p.m., when returning home, Betsy Blair observed this car that reminded her of a car her dad had growing up. All of this adds up to this fact. Evidence concealed by Liot supports that Richard Allen was not at the crime scene and that he had left at 1:30 and was already home by the time that Betsy Blair observed the 1965 Ford Comet-looking non-black vehicle at the CPS parking lot, and Liot knew it. Again, because of Betsy Blair's description of the vehicle she observed at the old CPS building, evidence supports that Richard Allen was also home by the time that Betsy Blair saw the 20-year-old with brown poofy hair on the bridge, which again explains why the person on the bridge looks nothing like Richard Allen, because it wasn't Richard Allen. This is simply outrageous and abusive behavior on the part of Liot. Abusive in that Liot used his power as a law enforcement officer to conceal evidence to secure a search warrant 26 days before an election in which he was running for sheriff. And at the brunt end of Liot's abusive behavior is Richard Allen, who has been sitting and suffering in hell for over 10 months. Liot doesn't even have the excuse that Betsy Blair provided the description to a different detective, and therefore he, Liot, could not have known of Blair's distinguishing description, making it a simple administrative snafu that just fell through the cracks. No, Liot heard the description straight from the mouth of Betsy Blair, yet chose to conceal this timeline destroying evidence from Judge Diener. If Judge Diener had known that evidence showed that Richard Allen was home by the time that the girls were abducted at 2:13 p.m., Diener would never have signed the search warrant. But that's not all. It gets even worse. Oh my God. It just keeps going and keeps going. Hi, Ryan. Oh God, it just doesn't stop. Hi, Dolly Bear. Me too, Corey. Me too. Dubbers. Holy shit. It's compelling. Passionate. It's so crazy to me. What's next? Aliens? I keep saying this. Somebody at some point, there's probably already a whole Reddit thread about it, that the aliens actually came down and did this. I guarantee there's somebody out there that believes it. It's super worrisome. Problem is going to be that they don't match each other at all. And it just goes to show that eyewitness accounts are not reliable. They're not reliable. And you can't just pick and choose which one you want to believe. And it's like, that's what they seem to have been doing this whole time. You have Betsy Blair, who gave a description 3 days later. They drew a sketch and they kept it under wraps. And it's not like they kept it under wraps because they had a second sketch. No, they waited months and months to get another sketch that they put out. So they don't, apparently Liot or whomever in law enforcement does not appreciate Betsy Blair's perspective on any of this, or does not believe that she was actually doesn't believe she was either actually truthful or that she was reliable. So that's a big issue. Because they don't trust her initial sketch. They don't trust her description of the car. They don't trust her description of the guy that she saw. Angels lie. Don't you dare. Don't you dare. And it's the sad part is, and we were talking about this earlier, it doesn't mean that all of them are bad. What happens is you put somebody in a position of power like this, and this person controls the well-being of everybody around them. You don't have a lot of choices, and you can't really go against the grain, because if you start to be the one that speaks out, and I think that it's the same way on YouTube. You start to be the one that speaks out, what happens? They do everything in the world to try to make sure that nobody ever believes you. They do anything they can to try to discredit you, make you the crazy one, you're the bad one. So nobody wants to listen to you. That's exactly what they would do to a cop who tries to say, hey, these people are wrong. That's possible too, that they neither one of them saw anybody that was actually important to any of this. And yep, they admit to seeing him at the bridge, and he admits to seeing them at the bridge. Oh, Scottish Queen, what was that? Who was that? And remember, Liggett was running against the other guy that people actually thought was going to win. They thought the other guy was actually going to win. And they didn't want Liggett in there. A lot of the outsiders. Well, Aries, you know that he refers to himself as Captain America. Brad Holder does. So if we're going to actually go with that, then we're going back to Brad Holder. It gets even worse. Liggett flat out lied when he told Judge Diener that in 2017, Sarah Carbaugh described a man as wearing a muddy and bloody clothing and was also wearing a blue jacket. For Liggett's timeline to work, not only did Liggett need for Richard Allen's black Ford Focus to be parked at the old CPS lot between 1:30 and 4, he also needed Sarah Carbaugh's statement concerning the man she claimed she saw walking westbound on 300 North at 3:57 to match Betsy Blair's description of a man wearing a blue jacket. It would also help if the man had blood on his clothing to further tie him into the murder. In his affidavit, Liggett wrote the following. Well, we know that in the original warrants that they were serving, like on Ron Logan, they talked about that they believed that whoever committed this crime had to have blood on them. An interview was done. Okay, hold on. An interview was done of Sarah Carbaugh in 2017. So this is what Liggett wrote in his affidavit. She states that she was traveling east on 300 North and observed a male subject walking west on the north side of 300 North away from the Monon High Bridge. She stated that he was wearing a blue-colored jacket and blue jeans and was muddy and bloody. She further stated that it appeared that he had gotten in a fight. Investigators determined from the video that she was on 300 North at 3:57 in the afternoon. The blue jacket described by Sarah Carbaugh would need to match the color of the jacket described by Betsy Blair to help with Liggett's timeline. Again, the blood on the clothing would be an added bonus in that it would tie the man that Sarah Carbaugh observed in with the murders and therefore assist Judge Diener in making the decision to sign the search warrant. The problem is that in 2017, Sarah Carbaugh told Liggett to his face that the man she observed walking west on 300 North was wearing a tan-colored coat, a lighter-colored coat, not a blue jacket. This is a problem because the color of this man's coat did not match the coat of the 20-year-old boyish-looking man with the poofy brown hair that Betsy Blair observed on the High Bridge around 2 p.m. According to Liggett, both of these men were Richard Allen. Let me see where they say that he says that, because I think that's what he said too in his deposition. Okay. Another way to put that is that Liggett has asserted that sketch number 1 and sketch number 2 are the exact same man, Richard Allen. Carbaugh saw a man walking on 300 North wearing a jacket. Liggett needed the color of that jacket to match the color of the jacket worn by the man Betsy Blair had observed on the High Bridge at 2 p.m. because Liggett is claiming that both men are the same man, Richard Allen. The problem was that Carbaugh did not observe the man walking down 300 North wearing a blue jacket. She observed a tan jacket. This meant that Sarah Carbaugh and Betsy Blair observed two different men. This created a problem for Liggett's timeline. So instead of being honest, Liggett chose to represent to Judge Diener that Carbaugh observed a man wearing a blue jacket when in her 2017 interview, she said it was tan. Remember that Liggett has testified under oath that only one man, Richard Allen, committed these crimes. Therefore, if Betsy Blair observed one man, while Sarah Carbaugh observed an entirely different second man, then this would cut against Liggett's preposterous contention that only one man committed this crime. The fact is that perhaps neither the young man Betsy Blair observed nor the muddy man that Sarah Carbaugh observed had anything to do with the murders. Meanwhile, as Blair and Carbaugh were observing these two different men, Richard Allen was at home, and a 1965 Comet-looking non-black vehicle was parked at the old CPS lot. Holy shit. Talk about making your head spin. In our crime analysis class, they had a man run through the room and rob the teacher. We were all in shock and like, what the hell? And then as it quieted down, they asked us to write down a description. And I guarantee you, none of them matched. Michael Thomas, that's his name. Yes. Yep. Yep. I don't even know if anybody's necessarily lying. Well, that's not true. Never mind. I'm not even going to say that because that's not true. Hi, baby girl. Only 3 out of the 30 students are even close to the description. Some people added glasses. Some people added a beard. Some people added a hat. And some people added boots, cowboy boots. It was a great lesson. Yeah. Eyewitness accounts are no good. Oh, and it gets even crazier. Oh, God. I made it to page 116, you guys. I'm proud of myself. I wasn't sure how far we were going to get, but yeah, sure does. The next page starts with, and it gets even worse. Abby was 13 and Libby was 14, Lynn. He should not be being held where he's at. And that is my opinion, and I'm going to stick with it. He should not be in a prison regardless. Our justice system does not call for that. He is not a convicted felon. He's not convicted of anything. He should not be being held in a prison, especially if there is issues going on in that prison. I don't even know why they think that they need to have that proof of that. They just shouldn't have him there. He just shouldn't even be there. It's not normal. Oh, yeah. Stupid computer. Stop it. If the next page says something about it getting worse, oh, shit. But that's not all. Oh, shit. Nowhere in Sarah Carbaugh's 2017 interview does Sarah Carbaugh use the word bloody to describe the clothing that the man was wearing. Nowhere. The so-called muddy, bloody lady is actually just the muddy lady, as Carbaugh only used the word muddy to describe the man she observed on 300 North in her 2017 interview. It certainly would help Judge Diener in making his decision if the man walking down the street was wearing a blue jacket and also wearing bloody clothing, as if he had just murdered somebody. However, Liot just flat out lied. Sarah Carbaugh never mentioned a blue coat and never mentioned blood in her 2017 interview. Instead of lying, had Liot told Judge Diener that the man walking down 300 North at 357 was wearing a light-colored tan coat instead of a blue coat, then Judge Diener would have realized that Betsy Blair and Sarah Carbaugh did not see the same man. Instead of lying, had Liot told Judge Diener that the man walking down 300 North only had on muddy clothing, then Judge Diener would not have associated that man with murder. Again, Liot can't claim that when drafting the affidavit, Liot relied on the false description provided by a different investigator. Sarah Carbaugh told Liot to his face that the man she observed was wearing a tan coat and was only muddy, not bloody. If Judge Diener had been told the truth, he would not have, nor should he have, signed the search warrant. Conclusion of part 3. There is a reason that in his sworn affidavit, Liot concealed key information from Judge Diener and lied about other key information. Had Diener known the hidden and falsified facts, that Diener would never have signed the search warrant, a search warrant that was already insufficient in linking Richard Allen to the murders even before Liggett's lies and deceptions. Liggett concealed and falsified evidence would have told a completely different story had Liggett not concealed evidence and lied about evidence. Richard Allen told Liggett to his face that he, Allen, had left the old CPS parking lot by 1:30, but Liggett opted to not let Judge Diener know about what Richard said. When Richard Allen drove away from the old CPS parking lot at 1:30 to go home, at some point in time before 2:15 p.m., a person driving a car that resembled a 1965 Comet, angular in shape and not black, backed their car into the old CPS parking lot and parked. Then, at 2:15 p.m., Betsy Blair drove past the old CPS parking lot and observed the car, remembered what it looked like because it reminded her of her youth, a car that her dad drove in the 1960s, because Richard Allen had left the CPS parking lot at or before 1:30. It certainly explains why the man that Betsy Blair observed at the High Bridge at 2 p.m. was boyish and youthful-looking 20 to 30-year-old man with poofy brown hair that looked nothing like Richard Allen, because it wasn't Richard Allen, as Richard Allen had left for home a half hour earlier. There is a reason that the man Sarah Carbaugh observed on 300 North at 3:57 was not wearing a blue coat like the man Betsy Blair observed on the High Bridge, the same man that Liggett claims was Richard Allen. It's because the man that Sarah Carbaugh observed on 300 North at 3:57 p.m. wasn't the same man that Betsy Blair saw on the bridge at 2 p.m. They're very repetitive. It was a completely different man that had mud, not blood, on his clothing. Betsy Blair saw one man, perhaps the same man that Rayleigh Voorhees, Bree Wilbur, and Anna Spath, I don't know how to say her last name, Spath, saw on the trail. That's the three younger girls. Betsy Blair saw one man, perhaps the same man, but if they're going to go with that's the same guy, the girls are saying they saw Richard Allen, which they all have a different description of what he was wearing as well, and then go back to that Richard Allen says he saw the girls. So probably not the same man. I don't know. Because now you're going to have to go back to prove that he actually wasn't there. Sarah Carbaugh observed a completely different man, and while all these witnesses were observing two different men, Richard Allen was at home where he had been since leaving the Monon Trail on or before 1:30 p.m. That is the difference that concealed and falsified evidence would have made for Judge Diener. Holy shiznit. Hey, Mystic Firefly. Ooh, poofy brown hair. It's Westville. But he's super tall. I mean, not super, super tall. Hi, Search and Rescue Canine Mom. Good to see you. I miss you. All it takes is one. The family stated that we will see how it plays out when they first arrest it. I'm assuming RA. Yeah, okay, right turn. I see it. Yeah. They think... how old is Betsy Blair? Great question. I don't know. Throw out SW, no trial. Lied on PCA, should be thrown out according to law. Yeah, and there goes your whole bullet thing anyway. The whole bullet's gone. Betsy is in her 50s and 60s? Okay. So if she saw a man who was in his 40s, it would be more realistic than like the kids who are going to be like, yeah, everybody else is old. Or like when you see a kid, we think everybody's like super young now. Eras, the Marvel god. What if the Odin group is just a red herring and the guy in jail is just the fall guy, and in reality someone we wouldn't even think of, like maybe someone related to somebody on the police force? At this point, we could go into so many different directions that I honestly don't know. This is what I keep saying about the Brad Holder stuff and the things with the Odinites. the prosecution or the investigators could easily show exactly what they did to rule out Brad Holden. It would be very, very simple. Look, this is not the guy. This is look at everything that we did. Here's his truck leaving. Here you can see him on the camera. You can see him at the gym. Here he is over here. You know, it would have been very simple. Yeah. What is the background? Why? How are these guys? Yeah, for 9 days he hung himself when he lost his eye. That's what Odin did. I'm gonna grab another soda pop. No dog lady. Yeah, there's the only other person that they really talk about is the Liebert. 9 is nothing. Corey, you could do that in the blink of an eye, right? Okay, so we made it to part 4, Odinites in Westville. I'm going to leave it up to you guys if we keep going. My brain is kind of mushy at this moment. There's just so much. But I could keep going. I've got about another 45 minutes. Let's see how long the next section is. $128. C-dub. All right, you think we could do part 4 and part 5? You think we could do the whole thing? I'm really going to need more to drink then. Oh my gosh, have you seen the BA Facebook video making fun of being BG and changing hats? Are you talking about the BH video where he's like, oh, you guys like my hat? You like my hat? Okay, you guys are all saying go? All right. If I stop making sense. It's going to be on you guys. Okay. Part 4, the Odinites in Westville. So now we're going to talk about the Department of Corrections and the patches on the uniforms, which is still a big question that I have, is do they have proof that these guys actually had these patches on? Or are the defense attorneys now going to be witnesses? We're here for the long haul. All right, yeah. Rated M for mature. All right, so part 4, Odinites in Westville. After his arrest, Richard Allen was forced to be housed in Westville Correctional Facility based upon a safekeeping order. On April 3rd, 2023, 2 of the transport guards walking Richard to and from his visit prominently displayed multiple patches on their Department of Corrections uniform. The top patch, "In Odin We Trust," was displayed under their embroidered name tags on the right side of their Department of Corrections uniform. On the left side of their uniform shirts were 2 patches. Okay, so it's under, so they have their name tag and then Odin We Trust is right underneath it, okay? On the right side. On the left side, there were 2 patches. The lower of the 2 patches consisted of a partial American flag. Do you need that light on? Is that what you're trying to do? No? Okay. On the left side of their uniform were 2 patches. The lower of the 2 patches consisted of a partial American flag and interlocking triangles. The interlocking triangles is a common symbol for those involved in the pagan Odinite religion. Above this American flag interlocking triangle patch was a patch that proclaimed, "I hate people." Below are images of those patches, in spite of the fact that for over 5 months, from November of 2022 to April of 2023, Richard Allen's defense team had been able to bring in their phones when visiting Richard Allen. After Richard's defense team showed photographs of decrepit Richard Allen at Westville, the warden apparently issued an order that Richard's defense team was no longer allowed to bring in their phones. Because Richard's defense team was no longer able to bring in their phones, the defense team was not able to take photographs or video of these patches after April 3rd. Therefore, the defense is providing affidavits from members of Richard Allen's defense team that viewed these patches on multiple occasions after April 3rd. Here are the patches worn by the guards. The images below of the patches worn by Sergeant Robertson and Sergeant Jones were found on Etsy. These patches can be purchased off Etsy. In Odin we trust, so this is under their name, and then the half flag with the triangles. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything up here. At the time, was fully aware of the Odinite involvement in the murders. In April, they were fully aware of the defense was fully aware of the Odinite involvement in the murders, but law enforcement would likely not have known that the defense was aware of the Odinite involvement, which could explain why they felt comfortable wearing the patches. An undercover state trooper who is familiar with hate groups, runes, and Odinism stated that interlocking triangles are associated with the Odinist belief systems. The deposition of undercover state trooper is attached. Also find attached a photograph of interlocking triangles to which the undercover trooper was referring to. Okay. Find attached Max Baker, an affidavit of Matt Hoffman. They wore a patch that said, "I hate people." Oh, Dolly Bear, thank you. Thank you for the super chat, and thank you for becoming a member. I thought you were a member, but yeah. That must be the murder sheet. I think they're the only ones that I know that have interviewed him, but I don't know. Maybe somebody else did too. Yeah. Hey, Rhonda. Yeah, I don't. Okay, so they were allowed to have their phones up until April 3rd, and they say they knew about the Odinite involvement. So why is there no pictures taken from November to April 3rd? It would only make sense if they actually realized the Odinite involvement after April 3rd when they were no longer allowed to bring their phones in. So why did they not take pictures? The first time that Richard's defense team noticed Sergeant Jones and Sergeant Robinson and the patches shown above that they wore on their uniform was on... Oh, wait. Seriously? Again, I should just read. The first time that Richard's defense team noticed the patches was on April 3rd. This also coincides with the time frame that Richard Allen's mental health began a steep decline. From that point forward, these two guards seemed inseparable from Richard Allen. Odinite correction officers Robinson and Jones would walk Richard Allen to and from his attorney's visits, as well as on one occasion when Richard visited with his wife, always wearing these embroidered patches. For a period, Sergeant Robinson and Sergeant Jones were also videotaping Richard Allen and his interactions with his attorneys. This ended only upon complaint by Richard's attorneys after several visits. This is the handheld camera that they were supposedly bringing in there, or not supposedly, they actually admit to it, but it doesn't have any audio. They're just videotaping it for the safety of the attorneys. This ended only upon complaint by Richard's attorneys after several visits. Additionally, Sergeant Robinson and Sergeant Jones were always close enough to Richard to be assured that Richard did not feel comfortable talking to his attorneys or his wife without knowing that these Odinite guards were within earshot of anything he would tell his lawyers or wife. Max Baker and Matt Hoffman have both been a part of Richard Allen's defense team since December of 2022 and have met with Richard on several occasions. In paragraph 10 of Max Baker's affidavit provides insight into some of what was going on at Westville with Odinist guards Jones and Robinson. During one memorial visit on May 4, 2023, myself, Attorney Baldwin, and Attorney Rozzi met with Richard Allen to discuss matters involving the case. At this time, Richard Allen was in a mental and physical state of deterioration and was nearly non-communicative. During the visit, Richard Allen repeatedly asked whether or not his wife was okay and if his family was okay. He claimed on a couple of occasions that they were going to kill him. When asked who he was referring to as they, Richard Allen responded by saying, "The guys with the Odin patches." Up to this point in the legal process, Richard Allen's defense team had never mentioned Odinites or Odinism to Richard Allen, either directly or indirectly. The first time I'm aware of any mention of Odinite involvement to Richard Allen was during a visit on August 25th, 2023, when Kathy Allen attended and a discussion occurred between attorney and client regarding ties to the crime scene. At an August 10th, 2023 deposition, the defense finally revealed to Jerry Holman, one of the main investigators on this case, that the defense knew that the evidence exposed the high likelihood that Odinites committed these murders by laying out the evidence right in front of Holman. Up until that point, the defense had strategically played dumb about possessing any knowledge of the Odinite involvement. This strategy was in place for many reasons. However, the defense finally revealed its knowledge to Jerry Holman on August 10th of 2023. 1 week later, during their first attorney visit since that August 10th deposition, Sergeant Robinson, as usual, dropped Rick off at the attorney meeting. Sergeant Jones was absent on this visit. However, something else was also different on this visit. Notably missing from Sergeant Robinson's uniform were the Odinite patches that Richard's defense team had taken note of on every attorney visit ever since April 3rd of 2023. Perhaps not so coincidentally, after Jerry Holman became aware of the defense team's knowledge of the Odinite involvement in the murders, magically, those patches were removed from Robinson's uniform, leaving blank spots where the patches used to be displayed on the very next attorney visit. According to the defense, they brought in a handheld camera. Yeah, strategically. You know how many people I know could be wearing that patch that says "I hate people" and not be an Odin? Yeah, I could use that patch. They weren't relieved of duty. Is it a private prison? Is it military? Are they using their examples of their religion? Well, I know that the Supreme Court ruled that they have to allow Odinism as a religion in the prison system, but I don't know why the guards themselves would be allowed to have any patches that are not regulated by the warden. Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's not a fact, but implied. They factually hold guilt. It's set up either way. In fact, maybe Hollywood is the new law or something. I have never heard of any officer videotaping on an attorney visiting with an inmate. An officer will just stay outside the room with the door shut, as it should be, right? I mean, there's no reason that they're videotaping, and this whole because they say it's under the safekeeping order, and that's why he's even in the Westville facility to begin with. None of that makes any sense to me. Why they feel like they couldn't keep him quote unquote safe in one of the jails that's much closer, and then why they feel that videotaping. So that was the other thing they talk about, that they were videotaping and making sure that when they sat like Richard Allen in the room, that he was facing the camera. So even though they couldn't quote unquote hear what he was saying, that they would be able to read his lips, or they would be able to have the video so somebody else could read his lips. Ooh, really? It was amended, but it doesn't. Attorney-client privilege is a very, very big deal. You can't just go messing with that. And your safekeeping is to make sure that your inmate stays safe, but they think the attorneys are going to go in there and do something to him. Nah, I don't know. It's all fishy to me. Like I said, it's already bothered me that the fact that they have him in a prison anyway. I think the attorney took pictures of the guard with patches. Well, they're saying they didn't, that they weren't allowed to have their phones after they realized about the patches. But okay, Dolly Bear, now you sound like Alec Murdoch. But Rose, they very well could have. You never know. High rise above. Either these defense attorneys are going to extreme measures and lying to defend a child killer, or they are telling the truth. Both are scary. Yeah, and I keep saying this because they even talk about the fact that they do not have all of the discovery, and that this came out. I said 14th or 18th. I can't remember the exact date that this came out. Now I think the 18th. But that they had received a dump of discovery on the 8th of September, that they still hadn't even gone through when writing this. So some of the things that they're saying, like that there's no evidence to support this, or there's no this, that, and the other. I'm wondering if they just don't have it yet, or if, I don't know. Is there like a middle ground here that we might be missing? Yeah, the jails keep. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, because they shouldn't be. A person who's not convicted of a crime, especially if they're not convicted of a felony, he's not convicted of anything. He shouldn't be in a prison. It just doesn't work that way. Could you imagine? I just want you to think about it like this. Just think of if you were arrested, or your son was arrested, or your daughter was arrested for a crime that you don't believe that they committed, and because the judge thinks that they should be safe, they're thrown into the prison system, not a jail that has like 60 cells, or even some are more, some are less, depending on the city and the place that they are. But just imagine that you're thrown into, you can't bail out because it's a murder charge. You got two murder charges in this case, and now all of a sudden you're living the prison life. You go from 0 to 100, like boom. You're not convicted of anything. I don't see it. It shouldn't matter. Toby doesn't have the right to say that. It is what it. I mean, it is what it is. That's my thought. Like, you don't just get to do that. I mean, you can do safekeeping is because they think that other people are going to be coming to hurt him because of the crimes that they're suggesting or implying that he is the perpetrator of. Child killers, so on and so forth. We talk about all that all the time. Yeah, you're already serving time in prison, awaiting trial. And if you guys know anything about our prison system, it's shitty anyway. We don't have. There's. I mean, if he's found not guilty, he's screwed. Mentally, there's just no coming back from that. They don't want him with the locals, right? But okay, then you keep him separated. And I'm not gonna sing, but keep him separated from all the locals. That's kind of your job. Hi, Vanessa. Okay, let's get back in here. We're making some good headway here. I think that we might be able to pull this off. The defense would remind the court that also, perhaps not so coincidentally, Tony Liggett was the only person that refused to support the transport of Richard Allen out of Westville when other options, Cass County, were available. Liggett cited as his sole reason for rejecting Richard Allen being moved from Westville 76 miles away to Cass County, Logansport, is that he, Liggett, would have difficulty transporting Richard Allen to Delphi from Logansport for hearings and trial, a distance of less than 20 miles. Certainly, state police were available to assist in the transport if Carroll County could not. Yet Liggett refused to agree to the transport, leaving Richard Allen in Westville guarded by Odinites. When factoring everything contained in this memorandum, Liggett's objection to moving Richard Allen to Cass County over transportation concerns is troubling, especially when the patches were removed after the depositions. Also filed contemporaneously with the Franks motion and memorandum is the defense's emergency request to transport Richard Allen out of Westville to the Cass County Jail, despite Tony Liggett's objection to the same, as the defense has legitimate concerns of Richard's safety once this motion and memorandum are filed. Yeah. Beyond Sergeant Jones and Sergeant Robinson wearing "In Odin We Trust" patches, what else links them to Odinism? Sergeant Jones and Sergeant Robinson's relationship with Odinism went beyond the patches they each proudly displayed while transporting Richard Allen to and from his attorney's visits. Sergeant Robinson, on his Facebook page, Sergeant Robinson does not hide his devotion to Odinism. On June 25th of 2023, Robinson posted a photo of what the defense would call an altar featuring horns, antlers, and Thor's hammer, and a dish sitting atop some type of animal fur with various runes decorating the outer edges of the dish. All these items were placed on what appears to be a circular wooden platter. It appears that Sergeant Jones liked Sergeant Robinson's Odin altar post. Sergeant Robinson's altar to Odin is similar to an altar to Odin posted by Brad Holder. Oh, goodness. These guys and liking each other's Facebook posts. What are they thinking? As stated by Max Baker in his affidavit, Sergeant Robinson was involved in transporting Richard Allen to most, if not all, of his attorney's visits. Sergeant Robinson always wore his Odin patches. However, that changed following Holman's contentious August 10th, 2023 deposition. In that deposition, which has been attached and provided to the court as an exhibit, about 2/3 of the way through the deposition, Holman begins getting called out by the defense for Unified Command's incompetent handling of the Odin aspect of the investigation. It was also at that point in the deposition that the defense began asking critical questions concerning the way that the Unified Command handled the investigation of Brad Holder, Patrick Westphal, Johnny Messer, and Elvis Fields. You will note that nowhere in that deposition did the defense reveal to Holman that the defense was aware that Sergeant Robinson and Sergeant Jones were wearing the "In Odin We Trust" patches. Attorney Rozzi and defense team member Max Baker visited Richard Allen on August 17, 2023, only 7 days after the contentious deposition with Holman, in which it became obvious that the defense was fully aware of the strong evidence that the Odinists committed the murders. At this August 17, 2017 visitation, as Max Baker states in his affidavit, Sergeant Robinson no longer was wearing his patch. The defense team has no direct knowledge as to whether Jerry Holman or anyone from Unified Command contacted Sergeant Robinson or anyone else from Westville to alert them that Rick's defense team was fully aware that evidence supported Odinists being involved in the murders. However, it is certainly a curiosity that deserves attention and consideration. As Max Baker also describes in his affidavit, Sergeant Robinson was always within a few feet of Richard Allen during Richard's meetings with his wife, Kathy. The 2 visits that Richard had with his wife were without the hustle and bustle and noise of other inmates during their visitation. While Warden Galdipo may claim that Westville was doing Richard a favor by allowing him privacy with his wife, the defense views it differently. With no other inmates in the room was completely quiet. Sergeant Robinson could hear everything that Richard told his wife. Certainly, Robinson and Jones stood close enough to Richard to intimidate Richard from talking openly and honestly to his wife about what was going on at Westville. Additionally, in their combined 50-plus years of practicing criminal defense, attorneys Baldwin and Rozzi had never had their purported confidential attorney visits videotaped with a handheld camcorder. Sergeant Jones and Sergeant Robinson, beginning April 3rd, 2023, began videotaping Richard Allen's interactions with his attorneys. Particularly outrageous was the fact that Richard Allen was required to face the camcorder from about 10 feet away through a glass. This means that Richard's mouth was being videotaped. This means that Richard was not able to talk freely to his attorneys and say things like, they are stating that if I don't tell my wife that I am guilty, then they say they're going to harm my wife. If Richard were to say anything like that, it would be on video. Remember, Richard Allen continuously asked his defense team if his wife was okay and if his family was okay. The defense has obtained video from the prison. One of the videos that we obtained show the aftermath of something that happened to Richard Allen. Find attached a still shot of Richard Allen taken from a video that Westville produced. The defense does not have the exact date, but the video indicates that the video was taken between May 26th and May 30th. The still shot is attached to this memorandum and filed as Exhibit 121. The defense is not sure exactly what happened to Richard Allen that caused him to look the way depicted in the still shot. Whether it was self-harm or something else, the fact that Richard is being watched by Odinites and the evidence strongly supports Odinite involvement in the murders causes great concern for the defense team in terms of Rick's safety. All right, hold on, you guys. Okay. Let me see. Additionally, in Matt Hoffman's affidavit, you will find that at the last pleading with the guards not to shock him. Please don't shock me. Please don't shock me. Please don't shock me. Matt Hoffman indicated that Rick made the comment in front of multiple guards and in front of multiple members of Rick's defense team. What the fuck? Sergeant Jones' Facebook post revealed his ties to Odinism. Find attached an image taken from Sergeant Jones's Facebook page marked as Exhibit 122. As you can see, the interlocking triangles that appear on Sergeant Jones's patch also appear in this photo. You will also notice a rune in the lower left-hand corner of the photo. It is hard to see because it is in black. Also remember that Sergeant Jones liked Sergeant Robinson's altar to Odin. The defense would request the court to review Max Baker's affidavit to learn of Sergeant Jones's involvement in guarding Richard Allen. It is nearly identical to Sergeant Robinson's involvement. Here's your conclusion. They don't teach you in law school what to do when your client who is accused of murder is being guarded by members of a religious cult whose members' evidence strongly supports were the actual murderers. Yet that is where we are. At some point in time, coincidences cease to be coincidences. The fact that Liot did not want Richard Allen to be removed from Westville purportedly over transportation issues is curious. The fact that Odinites are guarding Richard is very concerning, or at the very least curious considering the evidence discussed in this memorandum. The fact that Sergeant Robinson stopped wearing his In Odin We Trust patches within days of Jerry Holman and the Unified Command learning that the defense was fully aware of the evidence linking Odinist to the crime scene and that the Unified Command had avoided investigating Odinist is curious. Again, the defense is not claiming that Sergeant Jones and Sergeant Robinson are involved in the murders, just that they are Odinites, members of the same religious cult that evidence strongly supports were involved in the murders of Abby and Libby. Again, the court must determine whether Liot actually intentionally or recklessly, when he omitted or lied about information when he, Liot, drafted the affidavit for search warrant, the defense would ask the court to consider that Liot objecting to Richard Allen's transfer to Cass County over quote-unquote transportation issues is evidence of intentionality and that Liot wanted Allen to remain in Westville, guarded by Sergeant Robinson and Sergeant Jones and any other Odinite that the defense of whom the defense has not learned works at Westville. Holy shit. on decals on their patrol cars. Why not their uniforms? Well, because the warden shouldn't be allowing that. Confused on the cars? Yeah, there's a lot of cars. A lot of different cars. The Odin decals are getting quite popular with our rural police departments. That's a whole bunch of weirdos, Corey. I know, right? Wars have been caused by less. I don't know. I don't think they owned it. I know that Becky had done the appraisal, the insurance appraisal on it. I believe it is. I'd have to go back and check my notes because I haven't done a dive into the Florida fires for a very long time. But I believe that she actually had done the insurance estimates before it actually caught fire. I think there's just a tie to the patties. Are they abusing equipment? They don't have a shocking room? Oh, God. They just, like, yeah, he's just shocking him. Just shock. Don't shock me. Please don't shock me. Or is he just a really fucking good actor and he's just like, oh, I'm so abused. Look at me. I'm so abused. I don't know. I mean, we don't know any of these people. Like, so it's hard to say. I agree with that, jujitsu. There's got to be something that would prove it. I mean, there's so much video surveillance in the prisons. Just look at the visitation rooms. Maybe there is. Maybe these people are all tied together. Hi, ATS. Welcome back. They would have threatened him to plead guilty. Yeah. Hi, Fire. Welcome back to you. I've never heard anyone being videotaped with their lawyer. Yeah, it just that's not how it works. All right. I've heard little discussion of the ties to the Flora file. It was probably the biggest in these documents. I wonder because it's almost like law enforcement tied it to the Flora fires versus like the public, which is kind of what I've always thought. But it seems that when they were talking with Amber Holder, that they were kind of insinuating, like, hey, do you know, could it possibly be the Flora fires they were talking about? If it was actually possible to disbar a cop, I think Doug Carter and every member of his 100-man task force should lose their licenses. I'm really over like their whole, like, we kept everything so close to the vest because we believe, that it's better for the investigation. I'm like, I was already over it. I'm really over it now. If they were hiding all of this stuff, then I think you're not hiding it to help the investigation. You're hiding it for a different reason, and that bothers me. Well, we have one section left. What do you guys want to do? You want to do it real quick, or you want to wait for another part? It's up to you guys. There's 200 of you in here. You tell me. Got one section left. My butt's hurting from sitting in this seat. Do it. Yeah, he should be held at a county jail. He should not be held at a prison. It's hard when the judge is saying, yeah, no, you're gonna stay here. You don't have a choice. The lawyers can't do anything about it. I mean, they can keep fighting, which is what they're doing. They keep putting in more and more requests for him to be moved. Okay, all of you guys are like, do it. It's about a 15-minute read. Okay, Crime Curious. I can do it. We're going to get it done, and then we can do something different on the next one and not read these documents anymore. You'll be glad it's done. I know. All right, here we go. I'm going to take a drink first. Carter and his task force weren't hiding anything other than their incompetence. Yeah. And they kept saying, like, we're getting closer. We're getting closer. Oh, you vote to finish it tomorrow, C-Dub. I think you got outvoted, though. Well, I'm going to do it tomorrow anyway. Wait, what is today? Hold on. I guess it depends on if I'm going to football tomorrow. If I'm going to football tomorrow, then we're not doing anything. So we should just get it done because I can't guarantee that I can do tomorrow. Yeah, MK, a 15-minute read for Crime Curious. Me over here, talkie. I don't know. We'll see. Well, you have more days with me. I'm here, C-Dub. Because the next thing I'm going to do, I want to go back. I'm going to go back and I want to go through some of the old articles and some of the old stuff that Shay Benet has been sending me a ton of old things. Sleuth Investigates sending me tons of other things. I have a whole timeline that I want to put together just from this document. We're not done. We ain't done. We got stuff to do. Let's do it. We're just going to get this done so we can focus on some other docs and some other. Tammy Lynn's on. Finish this tonight. It's only 9 a.m. All right. Well, I've got about 15 minutes. Then I got to go cook dinner. So Tony Liggett has testified under oath that there is no DNA linking Richard Allen to. Oh, hold on. Part 5. Richard Allen has no ties to Odinism or any religious cult and has no ties to the crime scene. Tony Liggett has testified under oath there is no DNA linking Richard Allen to the crime scene. Liggett further has testified that he is unaware of anything that links Richard to the crime through his phone, computers, or electronics. Liggett has further testified that he is unaware of any evidence that links Richard Allen to any weird religious cult group. Jerry Holman has testified to the following. There is no DNA linking Richard Allen to the crime scene. No data extracted from Richard Allen's phone connects him to the murders. No data extracted from Libby's phone connected Richard to the murders. There's no evidence that Richard Allen is or was connected to any of the other suspects in the case. There's no evidence found on social media that connects Richard Allen to the murders. There's no evidence extracted from Richard Allen's computers that connects him to the murders. There is no fingerprint evidence that connects Richard Allen to the murders. This section is very short because there is simply no evidence linking Richard Allen to the murders. However, in his affidavit for search warrant, Liggett attempted to drum up as much connectivity as he could muster between Richard Allen and the murders to convince Judge Diener that it was more likely than not that evidence of the murders would be found in Richard Allen's house and vehicles. Here, essentially, is what Liggett swore and affirmed linked Richard Allen to the crime. Richard was on the trail sometime between 1:30 and 3:30. Richard owns a blue coat. Richard owns guns, and Richard owns knives. Liggett's claim, while withholding key evidence that a black Ford Focus was parked at the CPS building between 1:30 and 4. He's withholding key evidence that a black Ford Focus was parked at the CPS building between 1:30 and 4. Liggett's claim, while withholding key evidence that Betsy Blair observed a man on the bridge that Liggett claimed was Richard Allen. Liggett's claim, while withholding key evidence that Sarah Carbaugh observed a man walking down the road that Liggett claims, 1, is Richard Allen, and also, 2, the same man that Betsy Blair viewed on the high bridge. That's it. That's all. With all the evidence linking Brad Holder, Patrick Westville, Elvis Fields, Johnny Messer, and Rod Abrams to the murders, as discussed in Part 2, Liggett did not seek a single search warrant for any of those high-profile or high-level suspects. None. However, 26 days before the election, Liggett made a choice to seek a search warrant for Richard Allen's house based upon the items 1 through 7 above. Let's run through this list one by one. Richard Allen was on the trails between 1:30 and 3:30. The single solitary source for this information is Dan Doolin from the Department of Natural Resources. Therefore, in order to confidently trust that Richard Allen actually said that he was on the trail between 1:30 and 3:30, as stated in the affidavit, Dan Doolin's work product would also have to be trusted. Words matter when talking to someone. For example, if the exchange between Dan Doolin and Richard Allen was this: Richard, we think the girls were abducted between 1:30 and 3:30. Were you on the trail at any point in time between 1:30 and 3:30 p.m. on February 13th. I don't know if they're saying 17th. And Richard answered yes. That does not mean that Richard Allen was actually on the trail the entire time between 1:30 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. We were actually talking about this a little earlier. Like that one word can change it. However, Doolin could memorialize that exchange as Richard claiming he was on the trail the entire 2-hour time span. If so, Doolin's report would be inaccurate. Therefore, Doolin's accuracy in writing reports may need to be considered and scrutinized. The defense does not have to go very far in scrutinizing Doolin's accuracy in report writing. It can start with the report Doolin wrote about his interaction with Richard Allen. The conversation between Richard Allen and Dan Doolin came about when Richard Allen called the tip line to provide the limited information that Richard, may have had from his time on the trail that day. Doolin and Richard met at a grocery store in Delphi. At the conclusion of Doolin's interview with Richard Allen, he prepared his report. However, Doolin screwed up the most basic of tasks, getting the name right. Oh, shit. Doolin was so sloppy in drafting this report that he put Richard Allen's name into the system as Rick Allen Whiteman. Before being forced to sell their house and move away from the community that they loved because of the horrific allegations that Rick brutally murdered 2 young girls, Richard Rick Allen and his wife Kathy, lived for many years on Whiteman, is it Whitman? I think it's Whiteman Drive. This is probably the source of Doolin's mistake. Find Exhibit 123, Doolin's unclassified report 0074, which shows DNR officer Dan Doolin identifying Richard Allen as Rick Allen Whiteman in the system. Well, since we can't necessarily trust Dan's accuracy in writing reports, at least there would be a tape recording that would be able to provide the precise words used by Richard Allen, right? No, wrong. Find attached Exhibit 124, which is a report provided to the defense in discovery from Dan concerning his interview of Richard Allen. In this report, Dan wrote the following: I checked my audio recordings and cannot find one for him. I will keep looking because I am sure I recorded every interaction I had related to my assigned leads. Of course, another source of information of what time Richard Allen was on the trails that day is Richard Allen himself. As discussed previously in this memorandum, Richard Allen told Liot that he arrived on the trails around noon and left around 1:30. This was information that Liot concealed from Judge Diener. Richard's black Ford Focus was not parked at the CPS building at 2:15, according to Betsy Blair. This was also information that Liot concealed from Judge Diener. When Liot was asked if Doolin made any mistakes in the report that he drafted following his interview, Liot responded, I don't. None that I'm aware of, no. But fellow Unified Command member Jerry Holman had a different answer. There was an error. I don't know if it was processing or whatever you want to call it, but at some point it got lost in the shuffle and entered incorrectly. Liot also failed to inform Judge Diener that Dan cannot be trusted to perform the most basic of tasks when conducting an investigation. Get the name right. Liot swearing under oath that Richard Allen was on the trails between 1:30 and 3:30, based upon Dan Doolin's lost and unrecorded interview, may not be the best benchmark for Judge Diener to rely on. Unfortunately, Judge Diener would not know the unreliability of Doolin's report because Liot never let him know. Number 2, Richard Allen owns a blue coat, as do millions of other men. Number 3, Richard owns guns, as do millions of other men. 4, Richard owns knives, as do millions of other men. Hold, please. Okay. Number 5, his black Ford Focus was parked at the CPS building between 1:30 p.m. and 4 p.m. As the court knows by now, at 2:15 p.m., Betsy Blair observed a vehicle parked at the old CPS lot that resembled a 1965 non-black Comet with an angular design. This was not Richard Allen's vehicle. More importantly, Tony Liot concealed this fact from Judge Diener. Number 6, Betsy Blair observed a man on the bridge that Liot claimed was Richard Allen. As the court knows by now, the man that Betsy Blair observed on the bridge was a 20-year-old kid with brown poofy hair that did not resemble Rick Allen. This is not surprising considering that Rick Allen left the Monon Trail at 1:30 and therefore was not on the high bridge when Betsy Blair observed the 20-year-old kid. Rick's black Ford Focus was not on the CPS lot at 2:15, which is further evidence that Rick Allen was not on that bridge as he had already left the trails. Again, Liggett concealed that Betsy Blair identified a young man on the bridge and not Rick Allen. Number 7. Sarah Carbaugh observed a man walking down the road that Liggett claims 1 was Richard Allen and also 2 the same man that Betsy Blair viewed on the high bridge. As the court knows by now, Sarah Carbaugh observed a man wearing a tan coat and muddy pants. This man does not meet the description of the man that Betsy Blair observed on the bridge, which according to Liggett is the same man that Carbaugh observed on 300 North. And because Richard Allen's black Ford Focus was not at the CPS lot at 2:15 p.m., when Betsy Blair passed by and saw a 1965 Comet-looking car at the CPS lot, Richard Allen could not have been the man walking down 300 North. Liggett lied to Judge Diener when Liggett claimed that in 2017, Sarah Carbaugh observed a man with a blue coat and muddy and bloody clothing. Conclusion. Richard Allen is not connected to these horrific murders in any way. Liggett attempted to convince Judge Diener that evidence of the murders would be found in Rick's home over 5 years after the girls were slain, based upon the 7 enumerated reasons identified above. If Liggett had been honest, then Judge Diener would not have signed the warrant. Liggett wasn't honest, though. Richard's lack of any connection whatsoever to the crime scene, combined with Liggett's lies and concealments, merit a Franks hearing. Hi, Gravity. I'm going to make some pasta in a minute, tiny human. Can you give me
I want to eat something else. I want to eat a corn dog.
Okay, well, you're going to have to wait a minute because I'm still live. Can you just chill?
I'm going to do it right now.
Oh, you think you're the boss, but you ain't.
You're going to do this. You're going to do it this instant.
You don't even have any teeth. All right, shush. Okay, go. I'll be done in just a couple of minutes, babe. Yeah, my child knows his food. Okay, the conclusion of this memorandum. Are you guys ready? You guys ready for this? The conclusion. I never thought we'd see this day. Get the boy a corn dog. Just give it to him right now. Yeah, no. He's going to eat pasta. Poor kid. Okay. Here we are. Conclusion of the memorandum. I don't feel like I've reached a conclusion in my brain at all. My brain is so full of information. To prevail on its request for the court to set this matter for a Franks hearing, the defense must make a substantial preliminary showing that omitted or false statements were made knowingly or intentionally or with reckless disregard. If the court concludes that omitted facts or false statements were necessary for the finding of probable cause, the trial court should set a hearing on defendant's request, Franks versus Delaware. Indiana's Girth Court actually provided a simple way to assess whether a Franks hearing is justified. Is the concealed and false information contained in the brief the type of information that any reasonable person would have known was the kind of thing the judge would wish to know? That's interesting, okay? That's Girth versus State. Also, State v. Vance. The defense provided a very, very long and detailed analysis of that's an understatement, defense, of the facts because the court must determine whether evidence exists that Liggett actually intentionally or that Liggett acted with reckless regard. Whether evidence exists that Liggett acted intentionally or that Liggett acted with reckless disregard. The defense believes that the very long and detailed analysis of the facts was necessary to provide a very strong foundation from which this court could conclude that Liggett acted intentionally or with reckless disregard. Or more simply put, the very detailed analysis of the facts allows this court to conclude that yes, the omitted information and false information identified in the memorandum is the type of information that Judge Diener would have wanted to know before signing the warrant. Wherefore, Richard Allen, by and through his attorneys, Andrew J. Baldwin and Bradley A. Rozzi, request that this court set this case for a Franks hearing, at which time the defense will be asking for the search warrant to be deemed illegal and the fruits of the illegal warrant to be suppressed. We did it, you guys. We did it. We made it to the end. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, Angels lie. Yeah, that's so dumb. I don't know why I would say something so silly. That was so dumb. Well, the judge is, I mean, she's kind of busy. She's got a lot of stuff on her plate. So, and then she has to look up all the case law and everything that goes along with it to make sure that she makes the right decision so that it doesn't get overturned. Oh God, so suspicious. Everything is so suspicious in this. Yes, we did it. We did it, you guys. Yay, virtual hugs. Applause. Now go cook that boy some food. Georgia, I'm not making any corn dogs. Yeah, squeaky wheel you did. Tiny human thinks he's the boss around here. Judge Gall is going to grant a Franks hearing. I'm sure the defense knew that before it was even submitted. I don't believe they're going to get a Franks hearing either. Even if they do, even if they get the Franks hearing, I don't think they're going to get what they want from this. But I mean, still, the narrative they are putting out there, these people get on the stand, this is going to be a very interesting, intriguing, engaging trial, because they are not going down without a freaking fight. Well, yeah, but he's so cute, you can't do anything. And he's just joking. He's funny. He thinks he's funny anyway. The force seeks balance always. I'm the boss of my dad, and I'm 38. I've been his boss since I was born. I was my daddy's boss, too. Cut hot dogs into your pasta, best of both worlds for the time. Nuh-uh. No way. French and fries. I'm my own boss, Harrison. All right, so final thoughts? You guys have final thoughts? Same. I was my daddy's only girl. Can't help but wonder how many days or weeks it's going to take the court to sift through the fact or fiction in this 136-page motion. I also, with the state's response that they were just like, yeah, basically this is just, rubbish and grandstanding and just trying to, put stuff out into the public to taint a jury pool. They did not deny the claims, the ultimate claims of the entire thing. They're just like, no, Liot didn't do anything wrong. He's a good guy. That's really all they did. So I would love for the Franks hearing to happen. I just don't, like I said, I don't think the defense is going to get what they want, because a lot of what they put in here, in my opinion, and it's all it is, everything on here, it's just my opinion. I don't think that any of the Odinite stuff, any of that stuff is going to get them what they want. It wouldn't change the fact that they had enough probable cause to search Richard Allen's house. Now, the stuff with the witnesses is actually the most curious to me. That's the important stuff. In my opinion, once again, that's what I think. I am very curious about the Betsy Blair, Sarah Carbaugh stuff. Oh, I will. I'll check it. All right, you guys. I appreciate you guys so much. You guys have stuck it out for 6 whole parts. I cannot thank you guys enough. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys. for being here and supporting me. And I know, like I tell you, you have 1,000 other places that you could go, and yet you choose to be here. And I want you to know that I appreciate each and every single one of you for putting up with my reading and my constant having to talk through it all. I will try to be back tomorrow, depending on if I'm going to football or not. So that's really going to be the big thing. If so, we'll figure it out. And then I'm going to take a look at the map stuff for Morphew, because I've got some questions on that too. And then I want to go back through some older stuff of Delphi. I hope you guys will join me for that. And I'll see you guys sometime soon. Thank you, everybody.